It's so good with the cinnamon dolce. You try it with the cinnamon dolce too. It's very good. We love cinnamon. Oh my God. And cinnamon is good for prosperity too. So put a little 2 pumps of prosperity. Come on, 2 pumps of prosperity. So good. Okay. And then somebody under Deshaun's post or tweet said, Nas has entered the chat. And then Deshaun responds, the man who abused her, what did he enter the chat to say? Like, and then somebody else, it was on Neighborhood Talk. Here, let me go to Neighborhood Talk. Somebody was in the comments saying, Nas was right about you, and then put a bumblebee. And Khalees responded, yeah, he was madly in love and has never been the same. And she's right. Find the lie. Find the lie. Has Nas been able to move on? Who's he been with since Khalees? I know he likes to have a few drinks every now and again. Come on, Virgo. You know he's a Virgo. And I don't know why y'all want to fuck with this Leo. Leo season just started. And y'all want to mess with this girl. And the moon is in new moon. Come on. Leave the girl alone. Leave her alone. I think the right answer is she should have been notified. Period. She has every right to be upset. Here, let's listen to Khalees. I want to listen to a little bit of what she said because I think she has the right to be upset. I do. And everybody knows how people that go to, like, I think one thing that I've learned, that as a society we are so quick to blame a victim, like so fast. And it's like, when you're quick to blame the victim, ask yourself, what are you defending? What are you defending when you're blaming a victim? Are you defending a person being mistreated? Are you defending a person you're defending a person who might have harmed someone? What are you doing? What are you doing? And that's the hill you want to die on? Where you're standing where somebody has been done wrong and you're on the other side because you like this person's music? It's wrong. She should have, she put her name on the song in the credits. Okay, but at least somebody could have notified her, and everybody knows how to get in touch with everybody. It's nothing. I'm sure they didn't use T.S. Madison's voice without her permission. I'm sure she was notified that her voice was going to be used. Why can't Khalees be notified that her music and her creativity is going to be used, even though someone else owns it? And he really needs to give her shit back, because things have a funny way of evening out. I'm just saying. I like this song too. Heated. This Drake wrote on here too. I saw his name. It sounds a little bit like the other. Virgo's groove was cool. Let's listen to Khalees. Here she goes.
Comments, so let me just respond. There were some good ones too, but
it's my girl. Y'all better leave Khalees alone. So that's my girl. I don't care. I don't give a damn if Beyonce is a Virgo and all this other stuff. Right is right, and I fucking love Khalees, and leave her the fuck alone. And plus, she just lost her husband. Like, y'all are so fucking nasty.
The reality is that my real beef is not only with Beyonce, because at the end of the day, she sampled a record. She's copied me before. She's done it before. So have many other artists. It's fine. I don't care about that. The issue is that not only are we female artists, okay, Black female artists in an industry that there's not that many of us, right? We've met each other. We know each other. We have mutual friends. It's not hard. She can contact, right? Ash Nico, who's 20? She's a young white girl. She reached out when she freaking, like, it's just common decency, right? It's common decency, especially because, as so many of you pointed out, as though I don't know, but let me help you, okay? I know what I own and what I don't know. I also know the lies that were told. I also know the things that were stolen. Publishing was stolen. People were swindled out of rights. It happens all the time, especially back then. So it's not about me being mad about Beyonce. Everyone's like, you're all sheep. And I'm talking to the people who are obsessed and blind, just like, oh, like it's so dumb. It's so ignorant.
So dumb.
It's so ignorant. She's one issue because it was stupid and disrespectful, and she should have at least reached out. But the real issue is the fact that the people like Pharrell and like Chad, who Chad really is like an amoeba and just he's spineless. It's a miracle he can keep his neck up. But Pharrell knows better. This is a direct hit at me. He does this stuff all the time. It's very petty. Very, very, very. And the reality is that it's frustrating. I have the right to be frustrated. Why? Because no one had the human decency to call and be like, yo,
period.
Hey, would like to use your record. Which, by the way, the reason I'm annoyed is because I know it was on purpose. This is not like some, oh, they were in the studio and no, this was an on purpose direct hit, which is very passive aggressive. It's very petty. It's very stupid. And I'm going to say what I have to say. I don't mince my words. So all of you Beyonce fans, knock yourselves out. I'm not mad like that. It's not about me being jealous of someone using my song. That's the dumbest, most ignorant thing I've ever heard. Like,
right.
Grow up.
That's my song.
I'm not thinking about her or no one else. Not even on No Shade. Just not thinking about living my greatest, best life.
For real.
As I always do. So it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the fact that from one artist to another, you should have the decency and the common sense and the courtesy to call, reach out, a manager, an agent, anybody just be like, yo, heads up. This is what we're thinking. This is what we're doing. Even if you're going to do it anyway.
I love her.
Just common decency. Like I said,
I love
it's happened before where people at least had the.
This is my first online beef. So we'll see how this goes.
How I feel it. I don't care who likes it or doesn't like it. It is what it is. These are facts.
And her mane is just overflowing.
Later.
Full Leo. Come on, Leo season. I said, why are they messing with this girl? And she's not gonna not say what she. That's been her thing all the time. She's not gonna let people run over her, you know? And that's what I don't like to hear. That's what I don't like to hear. I heard it with Megan. Last time I heard people saying something was like with Megan. She should have read her contract. She should have read her contract. The whole contract thing is manipulation. It's a manipulation thing from the beginning. You're getting these kids, giving them advances, and they're not reading their contracts. They're excited. They want that money real quick. I don't understand, like, this is old, but I don't understand nowadays why people look to sign contracts. I know you need a machine behind you. You want a machine behind you, but I'm like, y'all need to go through your contracts. But this happens all the time. And that's the part that is like really messed up is because when creatives take advantage of other creatives, and it's just like, to me, I feel like that's the ultimate sin, because your creative energy comes from directly from source. Like, that is God, period. And so when you steal from someone who was like literally their creative, what God sent down through them for them to create, and you steal from them and you're a creator too, it's like, I don't know. I just feel like it's wrong. I feel like it's wrong. I feel like it is just an ultimate sin to do that to creative people. And it sucks because creative people aren't always business minded. So it's just like, whatever. A lot of the times it's like, girl, okay, well, I'm gonna have somebody else do it because they delegate stuff and end up getting screwed over. That happens all the time. But as she said, common decency as one creative to the next, not even on no black woman shit, bitch, just a creative, not even black woman, just source. On some source, you use your source energy, I use mine to create. We all do. That is, you're in creative mode. That's why too much sex, you're like wasting all of your creativity when you're going around just everywhere, right? But that's another conversation for another day. But when you're, as a creative, strip every social construct out of here. Just as a creative from creative, just be like, you know what? She should be happy. She put her on the she should be happy. She put her in the liner, girl. And then this is the second person who has come out and said that they weren't notified that their song was being used. Robin S. said the same thing. So it's just do what's right.
Cynthia, in your email, type in themis.thoth@gmail.com and search. It should come up. I did email you. I'm looking at it right now. Let me get back to here because I'm annoying everyone so that they can click off before we get to the other part. But Erica and I are beefing currently. We're in the middle. We're in the middle of what's going to be a very long beef regarding Beyonce and Kelly. So let's get back to this. I'll be back.
There's nothing else about it, okay? Chris Rock reacts. Hold on, let me put this. It says Chris Rock reacts to people saying only white people like his comedy. Kevin Hart says Martin Lawrence isn't given enough flowers. God, you guys suck each other's dicks on a daily basis. How?
So this is live. This is actually like premiering right now. Like Erica, if you haven't seen her, please go over to her channel. Why did she go off into dragging the comedians? Why, Erica? Why are you dragging everyone? Why are you dragging everyone? Her drags are epic. But we're only here for the Beyonce drag right now, and let's get into it. So, everyone, if you're on my channel, you are automatically a Beyonce fan. Period. We don't take you're just part of the club. So you have to be a Beyonce fan. It is what it is. We're fine. We're all here. So Beyonce stopped the world last night. The world is still recovering from her dropping her album. I won't talk about the album. What I will say, my favorite song is Plastic Off the Sofa, I think it is. I think that is my favorite song off the album currently. I've been replaying it. It's weird because I thought I would have liked a more upbeat song. So it is what it is. I don't mind a slow song. I like a Beyonce song. If Beyonce's on it, I'm gonna listen to it. All right. Now, the haters came out. All right, let's revert. Kelis came out and she actually, let's be fair. I really, really, really like Kelis. I think Kelis is super cool. She is great. She's just good. I like her. She's on the farm somewhere cooking food right now. So I do like her. I like her a lot. I think she's a good artist. I reposted one of her videos that no one watched, but you know me, supporting. Beyonce used a sample of one of Kelis's songs, apparently without telling Kelis. Now, obviously, if there was a legal issue, Kelis would have had the opportunity for legal recourse in court. She obviously does not own her music, and there was a sort of back and forth happening, and I went back a little bit to find out that Kelis and Pharrell were on a team together. Pharrell conned her, used her, then took all the rights to her music. And so Pharrell and Beyonce are friends. And so Pharrell, working with Beyonce, allowed Beyonce to use one of Kelis's songs as a sample. Kelis found out the way we found out about... Wait. Can you imagine having your art, your work, and you put it out, you realize that you don't own it. And after you found out you don't own it, the person you trusted with your art and with the business aspect of your artistry completely owns everything and just shuts you out. This is essentially what Pharrell and them did to her. Fine. It's not fine. I would be angry. I would be mad. I would be big mad. Like it would go down. So I get that. Beyonce, if she knew this was Kelis's song, and she also understands how the industry operates. I do agree. And this is a hard thing for me to admit because I like Beyonce, but I thought about it. And to be fair, as I always try to be, and objective, if I were Khalees, everyone would be getting dragged. Everyone. I am dragging everyone. I'm acting out. I would absolutely drag everyone. So, is she wrong for being upset? No, she is not wrong for her emotions. Is Beyonce wrong for sampling her without telling her? I think that's kind of complicated. If Beyonce knew she was on the song and Beyonce did not go to her at the time of recording or whatever, I can see Pharrell being in the studio editing and chopping things and putting it in. But I also think Beyonce is very in control of her artistry. And so, because of the kind of control that I think Beyonce has and the kind of knowledge she has of her industry, I am unwilling, even as a high ranking member of the Beehive, I am unwilling to say that either she did not know or that she did not have an obligation to go to the woman who created the art that she's going to use. I think she should have. Is that going to change anything about the way that I interact with Beyonce, as if I know her? Is that going to change my fandom? No. Is that going to change anything? No. And that's wrong because I feel bad for Khalees. But look, I'm just going to put my hypocrisy out there. I am not going to not be a fan. I'm not going to take Khalees' side. I'm not about to, I don't care. Khalees has the right to be angry. And for that, I'm like, I support you silently somewhere. But this is Beyonce's album, and I'm about to listen to it and buy everything that comes with it. So I don't know what that means about me. But I'm just admitting my fault up front. Now, if Khalees comes out with something, a recipe, a sauce, a burger, I'll go buy that too. So I mean, it is what it is. Was Beyonce wrong? Yeah, I think so. If Beyonce knew Khalees sung the song and you're gonna sample it, even if she does not legally own it, I think you should have. I think you should have gone to her. Could this be a master plan behind the scenes by Beyonce concocted for PR? Yes, that too could be true. Now, did the price of lemonade go down in hell? No, we are at a renaissance now. So, period. All right. All right. Before we actually get into the meaningful part of this, I have a interview with Beyonce that I want you guys to see. So Beyonce came out to do an interview to talk about her album. And I think this is the only interview of Beyonce kind of talking about her album and what to expect and all of that. So would a call have changed anything? She still would sample it. So there are a couple of things. I actually think if she called to tell her, hey, I'm going to sample your song, blah, 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 I really like it. To be fair, I didn't notice Khalees' song on the album. So let's be clear. I didn't even notice it, right? So whatever. But I think, if from a business strategy move, if Khalees said no and Beyonce still went on with it because she can legally do that, I would look at her sideways. That's my stance on that. But it is what it is. Like I'm not about hiding from the truth, and I'm gonna defend Beyonce when I think she's right. But I'm going to stand Beyonce just period. So as a fan, a Beehive member, it's fine. I just emailed you, Themis. I couldn't find your email, LOL. Wait, let me check. Oh, I definitely emailed the wrong I definitely, these subscribers just be lying to me at this point. Because let me actually forward you as we speak. I'm just gonna forward to you. I can't believe they did that. Have me out here waiting for something that was never gonna happen. All right, I just forwarded you the original email that I created. You should have it now. All right, cool. I don't know who I was emailing before, but you should have it now. Anyone who is anti-Beyonce is just a lie, a whole lie. All right, so let's play Beyonce's interview together.
The point of view of our very special guest today, I would like to give a shout out to our sponsor.
Did my team approve a sponsor for this episode?
Well,
Sir, for this episode.
of course.
The sponsor has already paid. If we don't shout them out, they'll sue us.
Better them than Parkwood.
Their check is keeping acted this
Shut
month.
the fuck up. You're Beyonce.
Thank you.
Act 1 of the singer's 7th studio album will be released Friday, July 29th, and we have the exclusive inside scoop. How are you today, Beyonce?
You do realize there's a tag hanging from your wig, don't you?
So you niggas wasn't gonna tell.
How are you today, Beyonce?
Call me B.
Really?
No.
Okay. Tell us about your 7th studio album, Renaissance.
It's called Renaissance.
Correct. How many videos are on the album?
How many tracks does Tidal say are on the album?
16.
Then how many videos do you think are on the album?
16.
Okay, then.
Who inspired the album?
Stream Renaissance.
Who features on the album?
Stream Renaissance.
Who produces on the
Stream
album?
Renaissance.
What does Jay-Z's Bucci taste like? I know you eat ass.
Stream Renaissance.
Describe track
Stream
1.
Renaissance.
Describe track
Stream
2.
Renaissance.
Describe
Stream
track 3.
Renaissance.
Describe track
Stream
4.
Renaissance.
What does Michelle think of the
Stream
album?
Renaissance.
What does Julius
Stream
think of the
Renaissance.
album? What do the twins think of
Stream
the album?
Renaissance.
What does Carrie Hilson think of the
Stream
album?
Renaissance.
Did Blue help write I'm That Girl?
Stream Renaissance.
Is America Has a Problem about Azalea Banks?
Stream Renaissance.
Did anyone get fired in the recording process?
Stream Renaissance.
Was Break My Soul originally titled Break My Pole?
Nigga, Stream Renaissance.
Huh. I have an inside source who claims
Your inside source will be shot in the head the second I leave this studio. Should you continue?
Why did you come on my show with no intention of answering any questions?
I was bored.
All right, so Stream Renaissance. That was actually quite funny. All right, so with that out of the way, wait, am I done with the mess? No, I have one more mess. I have one more piece of mess to provide to you. Have nothing to do with Beyonce or Renaissance. Everything has to do with Beyonce. What am I talking about? All right. So I have a very important announcement for the men's in the chat. I am starting. Look, stop. I am. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I'm announcing that I will be starting my own suit collection. It is called The Standard. Have you? wait.
I'm gonna waste your time. I'm gonna make this video quick. We need you. In today's society, one of the most heartbreaking things that I'm seeing is how many men are suffering in isolation, from school shootings to suicide to overdosing on drugs to so many different men on the internet sharing their pains, their frustration, their hurting, their isolation, their sadness, their misery. It breaks my heart because so many guys are suffering, and we need you. You see, in today's world, so many guys are living lives as civilians. And civilians are individuals who are passively allowing life to happen. They passively cause suffering in this world, and as well as they passively alleviate the suffering in this world.
So what do you mean they passively alleviate that? Oh, no, sorry. Not in the middle of my commercial. My bad.
And we have so many villains out there, so many people who are out to hurt individuals. So many people want to demonize, attack, shame men. They're the loudest people on this planet who always want to complain, who always want to tear down, who always want to point the finger at men and masculinity. We need you. Because the reality of the matter is we don't have enough heroes. And what a hero is a hero is somebody who proactively goes into the world to alleviate suffering. He doesn't go into the world to cause it. He goes into the world to alleviate it. We need great men. We need great fathers. We need great leaders. We need men to be vocal and to no longer be silent and to stand up, rise up, become strong, and lead in today's world. We need you. Today, we're launching our brand new collection of my luxury suit company, The Standard. And more than just suits, The Standard is a community of extraordinary men. And the desire with The Standard is, yes, we're going to look amazing with these great suits, but we want to not only look like a great man, we want to live the lives of great, excellent men. And it is my desire is to link up with all the great, amazing men in this world and to give them the community and the support to go out and change legacies, to change generations, to be the leaders that society needs. And so if you are a man who's looking out into today's world and who sees the vast lack of heroes, and you hear the call of greatness, and you want to become part of this community of men called to greatness, I need you to tap in. TheAffluentStandard.com. You can either join it by buying.
Okay. So for those who don't know, this suit is threaded with success. If you want to be a better man, go to thestandards.com, that's what he said, and purchase a suit. This is a sort of interesting commercial, and I actually wanted to talk about it, but because Erica and I decided that we were going to fight on Beyonce's Internet Today, I will not take up any further space. It's almost 30 minutes in, and we have to get into the actual legal part of. We have to get into the legal part of this. Not threatened. Period. Buy my suit, become successful. Hafiz and I. This is an advertisement. Like, this is advertisement for The Standard. So Hafiz, you are welcome, free of charge. That was an ad. So if you ever been hurt by a woman, if no one didn't like you, you felt invisible, you don't have money, you don't have a car, you don't have a job, you don't have self-esteem, if you don't have it, buy the suit and you'll get it. Apparently that's the thing now. So do that. I ordered it. It's on its way. All right. So let's drop the link. How do we want to start this? Ever so often, we get to talk about legal philosophies underpinning certain things, right? Today, we're going to do it for felony murder. Now, I think I have a ton of notes, And as soon as I look down on the notes, I see a ton of things are missing. So felony murder, a person is guilty of felony murder. Wait, can someone pin? Do I have to pin this? I think I have to pin the StreamYard because it's not, I hate these being like lecture-y. I want it to be where we can all come up and speak and defend. All right, let me pin that. All right, coming to spin. So if a death results in the commission of a felony, the person engaging in the felony can be charged with felony murder. This is a simple if-then statement that becomes very, very complicated. The uniform for me says, so LB, you are the first person on. Thank you so much for coming. I didn't want to do this alone. Everyone can come up. So if you think about felony murder, people in the chat, what we're thinking about is a rule that permits severe punishment for the most heinous offenses. So think about felony plus killing equals murder, right? And as a general matter, I think we should kind of talk about murder. And so I'm going to do that, attempt to do that quickly, because I definitely did not include it on my notepad. So I'll include it. So at common law, we kind of understand murder. You're making me dizzy. Oh, there you go. At common law, murder.
I'm so sorry. I have to do this.
You know, you're fine. At common law, murder is the unlawful killing of another human being with malice aforethought. The idea of malice aforethought is simple, but not really. So malice aforethought is a specific mental state, right? Nothing I say is legal advice. Nothing I say should be taken as legal advice. This is not even a law school teaching. This is a conversation about the state of the law and what we think it should be, right? Malice aforethought can be reached by 3 levels, right? 1, intent to kill. 2, intent to inflict grievous bodily harm on someone. And the third one is depraved heart, which is sort of wanton disregard for unjustifiable risk of harming another human being, right? So we generally think about a person's mental state when they engage in a behavior. So did this person intend to cause this result? It is one of the hardest things to prove when we're having a trial about murder. The action is very easy. The person is dead. You acted in a way that caused the person to die. Now the question is, did you intend to either kill this person? Did you engage in ridiculously harmful behavior? Or which is depraved heart. I shouldn't have used the word ridiculous. Or did you intend to cause or inflict egregious bodily harm? All right, step back. I don't know, when we think about felony murder plus felony crime equals felony murder. Close enough, yes. All right. So if we're stepping back from the idea that we need an action and then an intent to then cause a person to die to get to murder, what felony murder does, it takes away this is, for anyone who is a legal scholar, this is going to be interesting. It takes away the intent portion from malice aforethought, right? It's no longer about the intent to kill, but rather the intent to commit the felony. If you had the intent to commit the felony and you either attempted to commit the felony or actually committed the felony, and there is a death resulting from your commission of the felony, then you are now on the line for felony murder. I want to come up, but I'm driving to my hotel. Wait, we'll be, hopefully, if you're not far from your hotel, we'll hopefully be on when you get there. My question to you guys is felony murder a justified idea? And I want I want a bunch of people who say yes and a bunch of people who say no. When you think about felony murder as opposed to murder, again, felony murder is kind of bootstrapping murder when there is a death in a felony. So they don't have to talk about the sort of mental state that exists to cause murder, but rather they can use the intent to commit the felony to bootstrap murder in there. Is that a fear thing, right? So on one hand, we're going to do a vote, right? First, the question is it fair to have felony murder as a legal doctrine? And, well, let's start there, right? So drop a 1 if you think it is fair, if you support felony murder. Drop a 2 if you oppose felony murder in the raw sense. So 1 support, 2 oppose. Wait, is no one opposed to, wait, wait, is no one opposed to felony murder? Wait, oh my, all right, Kenny. So 1 person, oh my God. Pearl, super. Wait, I can't believe this. I thought there would be a mixture. Why is there not a mixture of people here?
There's some sprinkles of 2.
Wait, I mean, I saw 4 2s. There are 400 people in here and there are 4 2s. Wait, all right. If you hit 2, can you click the link? If you hit 2, can you click the link? You said you support it. Why? LB.
I think I'm on a delay right now, and I was going to drop out and come back in. Am I?
No, you seem fine to me.
Oh, okay. Why do I support it? I think that...
Wait. Which people is felony murder affecting the most? We never will answer that question. I need principles. Explain why. Why you support.
So, like, one of the reasons that we have laws, right, is to deter people from committing crimes, right? So, I think that having felony murder as something that is, like, I feel like having felony murder as, like, I guess an option or, like, part of the law makes it a stronger deterrent from committing certain felonies, because certain felonies, you're just like, I could probably get away with that. But if you think like if I kill somebody in the midst of this, I'm going to jail for murder, you might like second guess it more so than if it was just doing the crime.
But you are limiting felony murder in a way that has not been limited yet. So as a broad statement, if you're committing a felony and someone dies, not by your hand, but dies because of the circumstance you've created in committing the felony, you could be charged for murder in the first degree in some states. Is that fair to you, and do you support that? I'm not, hopefully my tone doesn't seem like I'm suggesting either way.
I think it's fair. I know that there's some circumstances in which it's not the best outcome, but I think overall it's generally fair.
I'm going to ask you why, but I need, please, for people who said they oppose it, can you guys come up? All right. Mango woman.
Hi.
You said you oppose felony murder.
Kind of. And the reason why I say kind of, because the situation could be stretched out where somebody make it maybe slightly involved, but not 100% the blame for the whole situation, because I feel like it's a slippery slope type
That's
of law.
all right. So I'm not going to use logical fallacies as a way to weasel out of this, but all right. So you oppose felony murder. All right. Why do you think felony murder should exist? Again, LB.
Because I think it creates a stronger deterrent.
So you're using deterrence as an example.
Yeah, also, well, actually, two-part. I think it's a stronger deterrent, and then also, I think that having felony murder, what was it? Oh, yeah. I think that it's important that we're held responsible for the consequences of our actions, and if we do that type of action without regard for life, and then someone's life is taken in the course of it, I think that we are responsible for that person's life.
All right. But
moral.
If you were going to rob a bank, you go into the bank, you stick them up. I don't know how you stick them up. All right, you stick them up. There's someone in there with a heart problem, and that person dies from some heart issue. Do you think the person robbing the bank should be held on the hook for felony murder?
So I think that question's being asked because it's not foreseeable, but still, yes.
All right. So you're a strong yes. Got it. All right, Lex, where do you come out on the felony murder debate?
I come on as a strong yes as well. I'm aligned with LB.
All right. I need stay on. I need one more person who is a no. Mango Woman, you're a no-ish. So I need one more person who is a no.
Let's see, who are these no's? I'm gonna call y'all out now.
Yeah, I mean, I do have a list. Kenny was a no. Super was a no. CYYOU was also a no. All right, Me Not Me. I hope you're a no also. Me Not Me. You're muted. Yeah.
Sorry, my mic wasn't working. I feel that there's a little bit more nuance because as far as my navigation just kicked on. I'm driving. I feel that as far as using it as a deterrent, that in my mind, anecdotally, the average criminal, do they really know about the added charges, of a felony murder? I don't think that the average criminal or person knows that.
All right, LB, that's the pushback.
Okay.
Your deterrence argument falls short because the average person does not know about felony murder. Therefore, it wouldn't deter them from engaging in the behavior. How do you respond to that, LB?
So my response to that is, honestly, when you think about it, as we grow up, we learn the law as we go. Nobody gets like a booklet with all the laws that apply to us, and we study it and then we learn it, and now we're responsible for it. They're like, our laws are like loosely based off of like moral standards that are accepted by society, and so we generally have a sense of what we're supposed to do and what we're not supposed to do, and everything else we learn along the way. I don't think that not knowing what the law is an excuse for committing or
no,
it's not an excuse, but it's not a deterrent.
Wait. It's not an excuse, and I think you're sidestepping the issue. A deterrent works if the people to be deterred know of the consequence and care about the consequence enough to not engage in the behavior. So
correct.
Well, so so two different things, right? There are people who don't know the law, right? But there are also smart criminals who are aware of the law. And so for the ones that don't know the law, to me, that's not an excuse. And for the ones that are aware of the law, then they knowingly did this. And like with them knowingly doing this, they could have chose not to.
No. So I will give this. The people who get swept up in felony murder charges are people who are unaware of its existence. And in fact, they're people who do not I'm going to have a caveat
Mhm.
somewhere here, who are not aware that the behavior that they're engaging in could result in the death of someone else. Because again, that's not the intent for engaging in the behavior.
Mhm. I still,
Can I come
I
in with a
still,
disagreement
oh, sorry.
Wait, a disagreement with Elby or me, not me?
with you? I
Oh,
think that
period. Yes.
yes, I think that usually if you're going to do a job, and I think of criminal activity kind of as a job, you try and
I
know
know.
everything about that, what you're engaging in, all of the things. If you're a criminal,
Oh no. I hope she comes
I
back.
kicked her off because she was. I'm kidding. I didn't. Both my hands were here.
But I was gonna say, even if it is an effective deterrent, and I have to think more about like how else I could support my position that it is. I still stand by you're responsible for the consequences of your action, and if your actions lead to a death, and you're doing something that
Look, me not me is dragging both of y'all with one question. So
I
let's
do
do it.
agree, but I do actually agree with having it, but I'm just stating that I do not believe it's a deterrent. So I just wanted to put that in there too.
I can
All right.
temporarily concede.
We're going to get back to the deterrent argument. Mango Woman, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that a lot of time when we talk about crimes, these are people in desperate time, desperate situation, 90% of the time in situation like that. So they're not thinking about the consequence. They think about the end to a mean at that time, right? So the knowledge of being aware of.
I'm not sure what that does actually. So if they're acting out of desperation, are you saying because they're acting out of desperation, that should then mean what?
As in the thought process of thinking about the deterrent.
Oh, so you're saying it's not going to deter them because they're acting out of desperation.
Exactly.
All right. This is actually a good point. Super. You're muted. Super.
Hello?
All right. Wait, before you, Super, we can't hear you. I'm sorry. You're still muted. Lex, you were about to drag me apparently.
I wasn't going to drag you. I think that I just view it differently. I think that if you are a person who's committing felony level crimes, you probably know a little bit about what you're doing, the same way that if I'm working a 9-to-5 job, I'm going to start to learn the tricks of the trade and what will get me in trouble and what won't. And how bad of an
in some states, driving too quickly could be a felony grade crime.
Yes, and I would say that if you're driving too quickly and you hit someone and kill them, you probably should be a part of a felony murder charge. Like, I don't think that that's completely wrong. And I think it also helps to protect us from people who are doing things like selling super hard drugs and someone overdoses. They should be responsible for that person's death.
All right. So if I become a state legislator and I make, I don't know, something, a felony that is not harmful to you or other people. I don't know, smoking weed. Let's not use that. I just make something. And in the commission of that felony, someone dies, not by your hand. Are you standing beside the fact that they should be charged for murder?
I'm going to stand very firmly on that side. I think that when it comes to a felony, generally felonies are very clear. And if you're going to commit a crime that's that level of a crime, anything that happens while you're committing that crime, you're kind of responsible for.
You do know making something felony can be very arbitrary by the legislator.
Okay, Themis, I have an example for you that you could probably use. Like, say
wait. Before you go, I want after Lex, then you can go.
Okay.
Yeah, so I do understand that it can be arbitrary. I also understand that, like, we as a society, we have a role in it. We can definitely push back on certain laws that pass. Like, we do have agency. So let's say like they decide to make growing poppy flowers in California, it's our state flower, a felony. like we could push back on that, being like, this is a naturally occurring flower. There's no way that this makes sense for the
But
society
it's
that we're
still,
trying
but
to
wait,
build.
wait. But in your world, it is still a felony. So doing so and having someone die in the process of doing so without any of the restriction on felony murder, which we haven't gotten into yet, they could be sent to prison. Chris, mute, please. They could be sent to prison for murder in the first degree, like the highest level of murder, if felony murder is murder in the first degree in that state.
I completely understand. And I think that the things that particular law, so felony murder, that charge protects us from is more important than the things that like
what does it sorry, LB, sorry, what does it protect you from in my mind?
Okay, so
in your mind.
From my perspective, I think about like drug dealers who are selling fentanyl, and we're having a huge like epidemic of people dying of fentanyl.
Not be that specific. What do you think felony murder protects us from?
It protects us, in my opinion, it protects us from people who are committing felonies that will end in death if we can't necessarily just get them on that felony charge for a long period of time. It allows us to put those people away for a longer period of time, keeping our community safer for a longer period of time.
So it's not just felony then. It would if the reason for felony murder in your mind is not just felony, but dangerous felony that in your mind can result in death. It seems like there is a huge caveat in terms of who should be prosecuted for felony murder in your articulation.
I will say that there is a caveat, and I think that dangerous felonies, yes. I think I will allow that caveat, and I will say like, okay, poppy flowers, maybe not. Smoking weed, maybe not. But if you're selling fentanyl...
Did you do the readings?
I did not do the readings.
No. I'm not glad you didn't, but I'm kind of glad you didn't because that's actually one of the limitations.
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry. I can drop. I'm not trying to be
No. I don't think that's good. That's like really good because you reasoned your way into like what legislators have decided is important in implementing. So it's not like a one-size-fit-all kind of rule. The rule has limitation. One of the limitation is whether or not we'll get into it, but the activity or the felony being engaged in is one of that can cause harm to people. And I think the acronym is BARC. So burglary, arson, rape, the other R is robbery, and then kidnapping. So they did limit it in a very severe way. But we're not talking about the limitation yet. I just really like the fact that we kind of like got there before we even talked about it. So that's beautiful. Go ahead, LB.
I have a question about BARC because I, don't recall anything from crim law. I just did it and got through it. But first, I want to say, like, I get why they put the limitations on it, but still, I feel like the fact that we have like courts and trials and appeal systems is good enough for, or like even if it's not sufficient, that should be improved rather than scrapping a law. Because I think that allows for the judges to use discretion, for the lawyers to build arguments, and for it to be interpreted. Because it's not statutory law; it's like court-made law, so it can be changed as it has been. And so, like, I think that the good outweighs the bad in the case of felony murder, and I'm still like 100% for it.
I mean, all right. Most Western countries don't have felony murder outside of the United States, but go off.
To be fair, though, I did put myself in the shoes of somebody who would have gone to jail for that, because a long time ago, when I started driving really young, and I probably shouldn't admit.
Please do not confess any crimes on here.
I didn't kill anybody, so it's okay. Like, honestly, it's okay. I'll be all right. So I haven't killed anybody, of course. But when I was younger, I used to like race people on the freeway. And I almost caught a felony a felony driving like case before, but
I mean, in some states, you could still catch it. That you were doing it and confessed to yeah.
Well, I have a little loophole. Like, if they wait, interesting. They would have to prove it, wouldn't they?
I mean, you just confessed it.
I could say that I did it for entertainment purposes and I was lying.
Period.
Okay. So, anyways.
No, you're fine. All right. So who's opposed to it?
Oh, sorry. I was just gonna say that, like, I think about myself as like a young teenager and like driving and almost catching a felony case for driving, and I think about it and I'm just like, wow, like I could have went to jail if I had hit somebody, and I could have gone to jail for murder, and so it makes me sad to think that I could have gone to jail for murder at like 19, but still I'm for it.
Yeah. All right. So. Super, you were on first. How before we get into the first case, what say you?
Hello?
All right. Yep.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I'm against it. I'm coming.
Did we lose Super? All right. I think we lost Super. I'm so sorry, Super.
I can go.
Huh?
I can go as Paris.
All right. Are you for or against?
I was really for it, and the more I start thinking about it, the more I'm like kind of in the middle. I think that it's a slippery slope when it comes to trying to assign fault to someone's death. Of course, if it was myself or my family member, I would want justice to be served. But I don't want it to be misplaced either.
But
and the extreme sense it
Isn't manslaughter still considered a felony? Yes. Wait. wait. Who's talking about manslaughter in the comments? But when you say justice, what does justice require? That's the question. Does a just system penalize someone who accidentally causes the death of another in a felony? Does the prosecution of them for first-degree murder seem just?
Accidental death is what you're saying?
I mean, felony murder presumes, right? Well, it does not presume. Let's not do that. Felony murder removes intent, insofar as the intent is applicable to the actual death. The intent that is necessary is the intent to commit the felony. Once you have that intent in the very simple formula that we just did, once you have the intent to commit the felony and you engage in the act, you either attempt or actually committed the felony and there is a death. We are discussing felony murder in that broad scale where you would now be liable for the death of someone in the first degree.
In that sense, I would say Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I was going to say, in that sense, I'm definitely for it because the accountability. But I'll tell you why. So, in the event that someone is premeditating or coming up with this crime that they're going to commit, with anything that you do, of course, some criminals do not have the social, what do you call it, like personality disorders or whatnot that keep them from calculating risk and caring about who's affected by their actions sometimes, like antisocial personality disorder and stuff. Those people are predispositioned to not care and activate and do these kind of crimes. But in the same sense, most normal people are going to calculate the risk of who's affected by their actions and things like that. If someone is committing,
pointed out desperation though. So without the reason I'm cutting that off is because I don't have the capacity to do the mental, do the mental analysis that is required to make that kind of judgment, nor do I have the research. But even assuming you're right on all of it, are you saying that once you can judge the situation and know that death could possibly result from it, if you engage in it, then you should therefore be liable for the death in the first degree?
I think so, yes. It's the same way with corporations. If they have shady business practices, unsafe work environment, etc., it's the same liability.
So the behavior that you are engaging in should, for a reasonable person, be dangerous. Like the behavior that you're engaging, the felony that you're engaging in, should be on some level dangerous.
Correct. If it's not a dangerous crime, it'd be completely different. But say if somebody is going to rob somewhere and they have a firearm, they didn't mean for it to discharge and it discharges, you came with the intent of using this loaded weapon as a form of intimidation. So whatever happens.
You and Lex end up in the same boat, which is not a bad boat to be in. It's very useful. So let's continue. Chris, go ahead. Are you opposed or for?
I'm for, because I think it's really just an extension of negligence. And in addressing the question of...
Wait, no, absolutely not. You're not going to blaze through that. You think it's an extension of negligence?
That's correct. In that you are undergoing an activity where it's reasonable that harm or grievous bodily injury or death can result as part of that activity.
Reasonable to whom?
It should be reasonable to the person who is participating.
But what if the felony is not in and of itself a dangerous felony?
Well, I think I'm in the same boat that it really would be limited to the violent felonies or a felony that would reasonably be understood to result in a death, even if that wasn't the underlying
so dangerous. You also include dangerous. All right, good. Kenny, where's me, not me? Me, not me. You need to come back. I need someone to be opposed to this. Go ahead, Kenny.
Hello.
Hey.
All right. Hey, everyone. So I just have a clarifying question. If someone goes out with the intent to commit armed robbery, and when the victim doesn't give them whatever, and then they shoot them and kill them, that's not felony murder, right? That's murder.
No, that's not felony murder, because there is a concept when we get into it called merger, and what that means is that the act that would constitute the felony cannot be the same as the one that would result in the death. So the fact that you pulled a gun and shot someone, you don't have to bypass the intent to kill there. And we'll get into a case, and I'll explain that more. I don't like how haphazard that was, but yeah.
Okay, so that being said, I think I have an issue with the fact that it's intent for a felony required. For example, when you said the heart attack, the person has a heart attack during a bank robbery, should you be liable for that? Now, I think they should probably get a more severe punishment, but I don't know if I don't believe that they should be charged for murder when that wasn't their intent.
All right, so if you're in a state where felony murder can be murder in the first degree and you can be punished to the fullest extent of the law, you oppose felony murder on the grounds that while you think a robbery that results in a death is more severe than just a robbery, you don't think it is akin to murder in the first degree.
Exactly.
Lex is shaking her head and going off. I want to hear this.
If you can reasonably say that if that robber hadn't robbed the bank, that this person would have gone about their business, gotten their money, and gone home, and it wouldn't have disrupted their day or raised their blood pressure enough that they had a heart attack, I would say that they're the direct cause of that person dying. Like, there's no other factors. Maybe they're older, but
all right, wait. So I'm gonna question you on that. So I don't think Kenny would disagree with you, and Kenny, you can hop off mute and say no, Themis, I would disagree. I don't think
I kind of would disagree with that.
Let me finish first, and then Kenny jump up. I don't think he would disagree, even though he just said he would. I don't think he would disagree that it's more severe than just robbery. I think he would just say it's not murder in the first degree. Wait, let me just be clear, Lex. You're saying it is murder in the first degree.
Yes, and I would say
Wait,
that
you don't think it's less than murder in the first degree?
no, and this would be my reasoning, and I think that it is more like personal. Is that I feel like if I was a family member of the person who had a heart attack while this person was robbing the bank, whether it was like my great aunt or my grandmother or something like that, I would want that person held liable directly for their death, because there is no reasonable way that person would have died otherwise in that situation. Like, they were in a safe environment. They were going maybe to deposit money or withdraw money. Like, they weren't expecting to have their life threatened in that instance. And I think that for me, I would say that's a direct result of your actions, and I would want you held as accountable as possible for that death.
Even to say it's the proximate cause of the death, right? Like, even to say that, are you saying being held liable means you have to be punished to the fullest extent, or some extent?
If my family member died, I want you punished to the fullest extent.
Okay,
so I think that I would give that to my neighbor as well. That, like, if your family member died, I would want the person that caused that death to be punished to the fullest extent of the law.
Wait, let me let Kenny go, because I don't want to take up his time. Go ahead. You
I just have a question for Lex. You don't have to answer anything, but like, let's say there's an elderly man and a kid jumps from behind a tree and he has a heart attack and dies. Would you consider that murder?
No, because they weren't committing a felony or a crime. Their intent wasn't to to kill this man, maybe prank them. But I think that the intent to commit a crime, and you're going into there to burglarize it, to take money from the bank, you in that moment are putting whatever your needs and desires are above everyone else in that situation, and you don't care about their well-being. In fact, if you brought guns, you brought guns with the intent of protecting yourself in case someone tries to stop you. So for me, a kid jumping from behind a tree is benign. Someone robbing a bank and committing a felony is not.
So Erica is invoking something called assumption of risk. I wouldn't say it this way, because isn't going to the bank a risk you have to take? Period.
And I would respond, is like, crossing the street is a risk that you got to take. But if someone's going 180 miles an hour and hits you, like, that, their choice directly impacted your life. Impacted you.
Sunny says, I don't think felony murder should be used in all violent crimes as just a blanket usage, but it should be an available and separate option. And I think, prosecutors, given the opportunity to use felony murder, will use felony murder, because felony murder is easier to get to than actual murder in the first degree, because you don't have to prove intent to kill. You just need to prove intent to commit the murder, the felony. So let's get into the first case, because I do appreciate, and I think we could stay on this for a long time. I'm going to try my best to not give my opinion. I'm just going to push back on everyone. Thank you, Sunny. All right. So the first case, did anyone read People versus Fuller?
A year ago. I'm sorry.
Wait. All right. Well, let's get into it. Yeah.
I was going to say, I got a little busier than expected, so I only read Smith.
All right, so let's do People versus Fuller and then get into Smith, right? So it was a Sunday morning at 8:30 a.m. there's a police officer patrolling in his vehicle, just driving around. He saw the defendant, who shall be named the defendant, because I definitely don't remember any names at all ever. So he saw the defendant rolling tires into his car. The defendants drove away quickly, and there was like a high-speed chase, which eventually resulted in the defendant running a red light, striking another car. The driver of the other car was killed, and then the defendant was arrested at the scene. The chase was like 10 to 12 minutes. So there was a call earlier that there was someone stealing spare tires. The police saw this man taking spare tires, putting in his car, chased him. He runs a red light, kills a man in an accident. How do you guys rule on this?
Quick question: is this Howard or Fuller?
What do you mean?
Okay.
This is Fuller.
Oh, okay.
I stand by my opinion.
All right, wait, Kenny, what, you don't think he should be charged for murder?
He was charged with felony murder, right?
Yeah.
I don't think it should be felony murder.
Why?
Because the intent wasn't to kill anyone. He was behaving recklessly. Obviously, he should be charged with something.
No. So what is felony murder again? What is your understanding?
You have to, from what you explained, I understand it as if you have the intent to commit the felony and it results in the death of someone, you could be charged with a murder.
So a felony plus a killing equals you can do felony murder. All right. I'm not asking you if you think it's right. I'm saying if you apply the rules as we have it currently, a felony and stealing at robbery, stealing the tire from the car.
In that case, then yes, you would charge him with felony murder.
Burglary. Let's use burglary as a legal term of art. All right, so you would charge him with felony murder?
Yeah, I wouldn't. Ideally, I wouldn't, but like in this scenario, yes, I would have to charge him.
I like to do it in steps because I think it's easier. All right, so you can, the standards are met, but why do you oppose such a judgment?
I just don't think it's the same as going out and murdering someone, because you said it ends up being the same, akin to first-degree murder, right? Or did I misunderstand that? Okay, yeah. So that's
it depends on the felony murder statute, but yeah.
I just think it should be further removed from like first-degree murder. That's all. Like he should still be charged with the death of that person because he caused it. Also, while committing a crime that he shouldn't be committing, and he was behaving recklessly, and of fleeing the law. So I definitely think he should be held accountable for it. I just don't agree that that's first-degree murder.
Well, in California, it was first-degree murder, and he got charged for it. Does anyone oppose besides Kenny, oppose such a ruling?
I oppose the ruling in the sense that the underlying burglary would not reasonably be considered to elevate the risk to other parties because there were no other parties, no bystanders around at the time. It's not like he carjacked the car and then took the tires. I don't think there was a reasonable calculation or risk of death or bodily harm from the burglary of the tires.
But does it change in hot pursuit?
Well, if the underlying charge was burglary, then no. If they're going to charge him based on a negligence in terms of his driving as a result of the hot pursuit and speeding and that it was vehicular related, then that does change the calculation for me because there's a reasonable assumption of risk where you're putting others in danger by engaging in a high-speed pursuit.
All right, I need to hear now from the people who said dangerous activity is required. If the underlying charge, dangerous felony, if the underlying charge is burglary, does that mean anything to you?
Yes.
I think so.
I agree with the ruling.
Huh?
I agree with the ruling, how they ruled on it. Because in the pursuit
Wait, is burglary by itself without a weapon intrinsically dangerous for the person and other party in burglarizing empty cars?
So just to like be clear, when you say burglarizing, that by definition is you're going into a place where you know that other people are present and you're stealing while they're there. Correct?
They will only steal when they're not there in this case because they're trying to steal spare tires from cars.
I think with that, there's a reasonable assumption that somebody could catch you or see you, even if you're trying to steal when someone's not there. Someone could witness. So what are you going to do to that witness to cover up the fact that they saw you?
I mean, a lot of people just run away.
Or they could pistol whip them or shoot at them. And I feel like we're playing a little bit of semantics.
No, we're not, because there's no gun. There was no weapons involved. And so
take spare tires off without a possible blunt force weapon.
Yeah, but to the extent that even the court was struggling because they felt like their hands were tied to felony murder because they did not believe that a burglary in the way that it took place should then result in a felony murder charge. So I'm just trying to understand Paris and Lex come out on this.
I might walk back. And this would be my caveat. In this case, I don't think that it's reasonable to say that his burglary was dangerous. I think what was dangerous was that escalation to a high pursuit chase.
Yeah.
I think in some cases, when someone is committing a burglary and there is no one held at gunpoint, there is no person in direct harm, the better way to solve that problem would be to like maybe keep a helicopter overhead, watch where the car goes, but don't like actually engage if you can siphon this person off from the rest of society and do something more safely. When you escalate to a high-speed chase in a populated area, you are putting someone in the position of doing something reckless to try and complete this felony successfully. And so like I would struggle there too, just because it's like, okay, this person was stealing tires and no one was being harmed in the process of them stealing tires. There is no threat of bodily injury to a person in that vicinity. When the actual danger came in when trying to stop this person, it's just rough. It's rough for me because I do think that you have to take accountability for the fact that you decided once caught to take off down the road and potentially harm someone to be able to be successful in committing this crime. But like, it'd be hard.
I feel like you guys are attempting to force accountability to mean first-degree murder. Like,
if it's my family member and you killed them, I don't care like what your circumstances were or how they died. Like I'm gonna look at you and probably want you to have that ranking.
But a death does not always mean first-degree murder, right?
I understand. But if you're committing a crime and my family member died, I would just feel like you shouldn't have been doing that. And if you decided to follow the law, they wouldn't die.
Is there a way to sort of depersonalize?
I don't know. I feel like death is really personal.
So you will not be writing legislation. Go ahead, LB.
Yeah, I was going to say, for me, it's not just personal. I was trying to find so for me, I think that first-degree murder could be a bit excessive. I'm thinking maybe second. But I still think that they should be charged with murder. I'm not sure exactly what I don't remember the question, to be honest.
No, I mean, I'm trying to understand if you guys still think first-degree murder is the punishment that is required in an accidental killing.
I
In the
believe
commission of a
so.
felony.
What I meant when I said playing semantics is even if somebody's committing a robbery or something like that and they shoot at someone, unless they're point blank range or are a sharpshooter, somebody could just be shooting and not know how to kill someone with a gun. You can survive a gunshot wound. So the intent to kill could be I was just trying to harm them and stop them from chasing me.
No. See, sorry, this is my bad. Felony murder tries to take that away.
Yeah.
Because to cause grievous bodily harm is one way to get to murder. And so you can prove that this person attempted to cause grievous bodily harm to an individual. And if you can prove that, you can prove murder without having to use felony murder. Felony murder takes that away.
I have a question then.
Go ahead.
So in a pretend world, someone tries to commit a robbery. No one's in the building when they do it. Something happens where a fire starts. It takes up, inflames the place that they're robbing as well as some adjacent buildings.
Wait. Who caused the fire?
I'm sorry?
Who caused the fire?
The burglar caused the fire.
All right.
And then because of that fire that started, the adjacent buildings or whatnot go up in flames, killing an onslaught of people there, like a mass amount of people. Is that a situation where you would consider that to be felony murder charges if they go that route? Because no one was physically there.
That sounds like a law school exam. I will not give you the answer to that, but it
all the above.
Yeah, no, I mean, it does sound like a law school exam. There's no, like, obviously, there's no, I mean, there's a right and wrong answer, but as a general matter in the discussion, don't think of this as a right or wrong answer kind of discussion, but your opinions. So we were talking earlier, and I'm not going to, I mean, obviously you guys know the ruling of the court, but that it was in the California courts indicated that they were upset that their hands were tied, and they couldn't do anything about it. All right. That's fine. However, when we think about felony murder, I think people were talking about deterrence, and I'm pretty sure LB was the first one to bring up deterrence as a sort of justification. Let's talk about the justifications and attempt to either build them up or dismantle them. So the U.S. remains virtually the only Western country that still recognize this rule, right? And it's saying that it makes the most serious sanction known to law for you to be able to impose that in when there's an accidental homicide. And I do, before we start this discussion, I do want you to think about this. I'm not trying to change your minds on this. I really am not. I'm just trying to get us to articulate in painfully meaningful ways what we think. We are saying, as a society, we are okay with enacting the highest level of punishment to an individual who caused an accidental homicide. The key word is accidental. Digest that for like a second, and then let's get into the actual discussion regarding policy, right? So if we're thinking about the purpose of the law, legal scholars kind of articulate that it is vague, but we can beef it up. We will beef it up here, and we'll discuss it. And what are the practical sort of impacts as we go through some of these justification for it, right? Now let's talk about deterrence. All right. LB, can you again articulate your stance on deterrence and how felony murder can deter people from engaging in certain behaviors, if that's what you mean by deterrence?
Okay. Full transparency, I threw deterrence out there just as a general thing to start with. However, I do think that generally deterrence is a weak argument because there's a lot of exceptions. But I would say that because, you know, there are people who have no consideration for others just as like the personality defect, and it's not going to deter them. And then there's people who are ignorant of the law, and even when they're a career criminal. So that's an issue. And then there's, to me, it deters, if it deters one person, then it's worth it. And so I believe that it has the potential to deter at least one person, and therefore I think it's worth it.
So can you truly deter an unintended act?
Yeah. Well, you deter people from being in the situation that causes the harm. Even if the murder was unintended, the act that they committed that made them qualify for felony murder was intended, and you can deter them from doing that act, which would lead to a murder.
Right, so, but the sequence of events for deterrence is the act is bad. I know the act is bad. Society deems the act to be bad. Society will also punish me in this way for this bad act. Also, if I'm committing this bad act, which is the felony, and this happens, I will also be punished more for this other act. Do you think most people who engage in criminal behavior can do that kind of analysis enough to be deterred? First question. Go
No.
ahead. All right. Second question. Oh, Lexi said yes?
Yeah.
All right. Second question. Even if they can, do most criminals engage in criminal conduct knowing they're going to be, or either thinking they're going to be caught?
I think that most don't even consider that.
All right. So if they don't consider that, for you, LB deterrence falls flat. Lex.
Wait, I'm not saying general, like broad stroke, it deters the majority. I'm saying it deters some people. Like deterrence is one of the benefits of it. Like in part, deterrence isn't gonna be the thing that makes it worth it for each person, but deterrence makes it worth it for some people. And to me, deterring some people is better than deterring no people.
But for the people who will do the mental gymnastic, one could argue that just murder or getting sent to prison for burglary, etc., would already deter them. But I'll take your point. However, if you concede that they don't do that, most people don't do that mental process, and we are at Lex, what say you regarding deterrence insofar as the people who engage in criminal behavior don't think that they're going to be caught?
So I would disagree. I think that when it comes to people who are engaging in criminal behavior, a lot of people think about what they're going to do and actually tailor their plans to, if they do get caught, to have the least possible sentencing. So I know of some people who may or may not have been boosters. And in certain states, $700 is a felony, but anything below that is not. And it's a misdemeanor. I know in California, I think it's like $1,500 felony charge. So if you know that if you still below that number, you won't be charged for a felony, a lot of people tailor how much they're stealing to be able to like not hit that felony charge.
Okay, and you are okay with someone engaging in conduct that doesn't rise to the level of a felony that causes the death and they don't get charged, but because it's a felony, you would then say they should be charged with felony murder?
What I'm saying is if felony murder can be attached to what you're doing, it would probably deter you from doing it. The same way as getting a felony would probably deter you from getting a felony. Might you do other things out of desperation? Yes. But
No. But I'm also back to the question of arbitrary, the arbitrary notion. Are you okay with someone who engaged in a misdemeanor sort of getting away with murder in your mind because what they didn't rise to the level of felony, even though it was dangerous and resulted in the death of someone.
I would not want them to get away with murder, but do they automatically get first-degree murder? No. I think if you're committing a felony, automatically getting first-degree murder is completely fine, because what you were doing to begin with was already on the level of a higher.
No, that's why I'm pressing, because I think in your mind, you're suggesting that because something is listed as a felony, it is somehow, obviously, the judgment by society and the legislator is at its worst than something else. But we know that state to state differ in what they describe as a felony. And so the label of felony alone should not, in my mind, indicate that it is dangerous.
I understand what you're saying. And I honestly, I do have compassion for the people who are committing not dangerous felonies. But again, in my mind, for the more dangerous felonies, like a rape, in my opinion, any kind of hard drug dealing, I think that it's one of those things where I look at it and I think that it's way more important for it to be in place for those instances than for it to be just because someone might get charged with felony murder because they stole something, we don't want to have this on the books. I think that it's important for those more heinous cases.
No, but so I'm okay with you saying you want it on the book with your caveat, but I think in your articulation, you seem to always just say, well, it's the felony, so they should get it, as opposed to a more nuanced approach where it's a dangerous felony, therefore that.
I thought that I had already stated in the beginning that that is more of my caveat, but I am of the fact that it's well, if the only way to have the dangerous felony taken into account is for all felonies to be taken into account, I am okay with that umbrella. However, would I love it if there was a nuance and there was a separation between dangerous felony and the circumstances in which felony murder comes into play? If that could be updated, 100%. But if it can't, I'm okay to be a part of a society where felonies are the umbrella and you can be charged with felony murder.
Would you be down for misdemeanor murder?
Misdemeanors as also a way to get charged for felony murder. I just clarifying your question.
It wouldn't be felony though, but yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that yes, because if you're
I can't even go there with you.
It depends on the situation. I feel like there has to be, in that case, there has to be more circumstances, because if you're committing a misdemeanor, if you're robbing a place and someone flips and you are stealing $300 worth of products and someone slips because you run past them and falls and dies, do I think that you should go to prison forever? No. But I think that there's a responsibility that needs to be taken, because if you had it run into them on your way out of the store, it probably would still be alive.
All right, Chris, how do you respond to this?
Oh,
do you agree outside of the MM?
Oh, sorry.
So I have a quick clarifying question, because this is a long way from IP law. Are there any states where BARC crimes are not felonies?
Where what?
So are there any states where BARC crimes are not treated as felonies?
Oh, when I say BARC, I don't know of any, but when I say BARC, I'm talking, this is a general common law approach.
Right. So my assumption is that in all states that charge those BARC crimes, they're all classified as felonies. In other words, you're not going to have arson in one state that's a misdemeanor and in another state it's a felony.
I mean, when you say it so definitively, you are excluding the fact that it could.
Well, I'm not sure. That's why I was asking. So I'm just saying, for the sake of this discussion, are we treating it that way, or are we saying
We're
we don't
treating it
know.
I mean, we are not using bark generally, but like if you do, we can use it that way.
Okay, so I would generally be against misdemeanor crimes being included, with the possible exception of DVs, misdemeanor DVs.
I mean, we're having a merger problem if we use DV, and we'll get to another case in a minute. There's a merger problem if you try to use DV and child abuse. A huge merger problem that comes up when we do that.
Because my understanding is that one of the other crimes that is typically associated with the felony murder would be lewd acts with a minor. And that, in my mind, would regularly be charged as a felony rather than a misdemeanor. So I'm not sure if that contributes to the merger issue or not. But I think that it has another benefit as a deterrent, and that would be deterring people who might act as accomplices. If
wait, let me respond to this. It's not so. There's 2 Ks in there, and it's burglary, arson, robbery, kidnapping, rape, kidnapping. It's robbery. It's 2 Rs. Burglary, arson, rape, robbery, kidnapping. Yeah, there it is. Go ahead.
So I think it would deter potential accomplices. If they know this person that's trying to enlist them has a hot temper and can just go off, I would think twice about participating in a felony, just knowing that if he loses it, I'm on the hook for what he does.
Yeah. I mean, we're going to get to the police killing someone and you being held accountable for it. In a minute.
Can I add something as well?
Oh, who was that? Yes. I don't
Harris.
know. Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say the BARRK crimes sound like some of the most extreme levels of crime that someone would be able to commit. I'm definitely in line with Lex, where if you have or know anyone that has been a criminal, they know the law. They know exactly how many years that they can get for each thing.
I feel like you guys have a very specific person in mind, or a very specific group, or something like that. I don't know that as a general matter, people who engage in behavior, even if they know the law, know the extent to which they can be punished.
Can I?
Sorry.
Oh, I was going to continue.
Go for it.
Okay, I was going to say, people who perpetually are in the system and are repeat offenders know the law more readily than like a minor or something like that, which minor laws are going to be completely different. This is why I'm not thinking of them. But I was going to add, who are these people that we're supposed to have this empathy for to a certain extent?
Oh, this is not about empathy.
That's what I look at it as, because I'm thinking that.
So that's something.
The same way you're saying there's a person we're thinking of, there's a person you're thinking of that somebody would feel like, oh,
I'm thinking of numbers actually, and I specifically don't remember people's name in cases because I don't want to humanize them unless I'm on the case. But I also don't do criminal law. But when I hear Lex and Paris, I think we can just now jump to the next justification, which is retribution. And I think that might be where both of you come out on in terms of like why you support this. Now, can I hear your arguments for that?
Well, I would say, for one, in a lot of cases, and specifically with these bark that you've shown, I don't see anything for drugs, like specifically drug charges. I'll say on a personal level, I've had a family member die from like crack. And that is something that's like, if you're dealing a drug that is with likely overdoses and different things like that, fentanyl, different things like that, those kinds of drugs. I won't put weed into that. Like there's other things that I think would be lower level that you have more of a likelihood of like being able to partake in without it being lethal over a period of time. I personally feel like if you're going to do that, if you're going to commit to tearing down your community, flooding it with things that are going to kill people, I personally feel like that felony murder charge, if you're dealing fentanyl or you're dealing, what is it called, ketamine, and someone overdoses at the party where you're selling it, I'm completely fine with you being held liable for that person's murder. And I think
wait, pause. If you agree with Lex, just say yes. That's it.
Yes.
All right. What you just articulated is a standard call for intent known as sort of general intent. And I'm very surprised by the articulation of that, particularly under a retributive justification. It fits squarely there, but it's strange to hear it because it's this notion of an evil mind. It was in criminology in the 17th and 18th century England, less developed, obviously, mens rea at the time, where these illegal acts, right, highlights malicious intent sort of generally. And so anything that comes out of the bad action, it's fair game to say, well, you did this. The issue that, and why it's underdeveloped and was very useful in, I don't know, 17th century UK or England, is because like most felonies result in a death. Like the punishment is going to be you die. And so it doesn't actually matters as a general, it doesn't matter as a general matter that the person who engaged in the behavior is, you're going to say it's felony murder or it's just random felony because you're going to die. Like it is just what it is. But as we have developed in terms of our legal system and legal framework, there is sort of an unwillingness by scholars and other people to say that the general intent in creating an atmosphere for degeneracy that causes one thing, let's just say, to engage in a felonious action should result in you being punished for something unintended. Does that make sense?
No, I get what you're saying. And I think that I would just push back on the fact that I don't think that you have an evil mind if you're selling ketamine or different things. I think that you're complacent and I think that you're self-centered. I think that whatever you need is coming before if this person lives or dies. And I don't think that that's technically evil. I think that it's actually like very much more of like a narcissistic trait of like just looking out for yourself. However you can make ends meet, you're making them meet.
And you think they should be charged for, you think they should be charged for first degree murder if a death result?
Yes.
All right.
I don't care about, and I like felony murder because it doesn't care about your intent. Because
it does care about your intent to engage in the felony, not the intent to cause the death. But
and that's why I think that like in this particular case, I think specifically for harder drug felonies, it doesn't matter if you intended for them to die. Like,
I said, yes.
In my opinion,
agreed.
You sold them the ketamine. You sold them the fentanyl. You did this thing. You're probably not even the person that made this drug, and you're selling it to them not knowing what's going to happen to them, and you're fine with that. And so I think for me, I'm completely fine with that felony murder charge in those instances, and I would just add it to the BARC charges because I think they're the best.
I think most people who allegedly know the law just know that what they're doing is against the law, but not the specific ramification. I agree, but thank you, Sunny. But I'm trying not to be forceful because I don't actually want. I want people to like be able to talk about this and go. So when we think about the continued reliance on sort of what you explain is actually general culpability. And while you don't want to say they're evil, I mean, the theory is evil mind, but it's about general culpability to justify felony murder in this way. Most other, and I know you don't care about the bandwagon, but like most scholars, judges, attorneys, everyone detest the felony murder rule because of its sort of, I'm going to use the word primitive, but I promise I don't mean it disrespectfully. The primitive rationale.
I'm not disrespected by that at all. I think in this one, it is more of a primal feeling around this law for me personally.
Yeah, and that's why
a psychological feeling. I think that there is a lot of space for it to be misused, or be a miscarriage for someone who is generally a great person, but like made a mistake one day. But for that opposite side of people who are more, in my opinion, nefarious, I would like this to be able to be used for.
All right. So for my legal philosophy operates kind of the opposite of that, where like the idea that good people might be caught up makes me very afraid to impose super strict. I mean, I am, but so for the death sentence, would you abolish the death sentence?
Yes, because I personally don't think that we should be having control over other people's lives. And I think that there's some degree for which we shouldn't kill other people. That's hard for me.
But you don't care about the mistake, like the potential of killing an innocent person.
I do. I think that, and generally the people who are innocent that are being killed are Black people. So like, of course, that's like a huge like issue for me. I think that there's a difference between dying and going to prison for the rest of your life. I think that there's a difference.
So the degree matters in terms of when the degree of punishment matters in terms of when you care and don't care about innocent people getting caught up.
I guess. Because I think it does. I think for me, there are different levels to things. I think that death is very serious. That's why I feel like, hey, like if
but life in prison is not.
I think that it is very serious. It's the most serious that you can get. But I don't necessarily think that. I think that because you've taken someone's life, the life that you're able to lead should be limited. That's retribution, in my opinion. Should we kill you? No. But should you be able to go out and have a family and have all of these great things, like do all these things? No. I would hate to
and
see
you're
that.
not animated to think differently in the real reality that some innocent people will get caught up in that.
And I think that we do differ because I think to myself, like, you know, and I hate to say it this way, but like, how good of a person are you if you're committing certain felonies? If you're raping someone, if you are selling ketamine and you know it has a very high rate of people overdosing
What
and
if
dying.
you're robbing a food place to feed your child who is almost dead?
And again, I wish that if we could put caveats in for lesser things, I would be so behind that. But also, man, it sucks. It really sucks for you. But to be able to take those people off,
She don't care.
I'm okay to make that.
In other words, she don't care.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Can I give? I'm sorry, guys.
Oh wait, no.
Oh,
Yeah,
here's
Helima hasn't. Wait. Helima hasn't spoken, so let's do Helima, Kenny, and then Super, because you guys haven't spoken yet.
I would say I side with like the words are small. I can't read your name. Is it Lexi?
Nope, you don't get to speak anymore. I'm kidding.
Oh, I am more on Lexi's side because, like, okay, and also I have a spiritual element to it. I believe in my heart that if you're doing something that you know is bad, that's your own karma. Go ahead and do it. But I don't believe that it should affect another person in a negative way. So if you're selling drug and you and I understand, people need to survive and all that kind of stuff, and I sympathize with that on that side. But if you already know you're doing something that's illegal and that's bad, and on top of that take someone else's life, I really think you need jail time.
Yalo, savage. But you saying, I think we're missing a point though. Saying you should be punished and you need jail time is good. I think everyone would agree with that. Saying you should be charged with first-degree murder and spend life in prison, I think is where the disconnect is.
Amos, can I respond to that?
Go ahead then, Kenny.
Okay. I just think that it would be more practical to increase the sentencing for things like rape or whatever you think is that heinous that it deserves a felony murder charge, than to say that they should have the felony murder just on a pure I cannot say that word,
retributivist.
Yeah, based off of that. I'm not even gonna try.
You can say based on retribution.
Based on retribution. Like, I don't think that based on retribution alone, that's why we should have felony murder. Still for it. But I think if that's your only reason, then I think it would be better to just increase the sentencing for the other crimes.
Kenny, go ahead.
I kind of had a comment about like retribution. So, for instance, in the bank robbery scenario, wouldn't the up to 10 years in prison that they get for committing the robbery also be a form of retribution? Like maybe also, I see Lex shaking her. I had a question. So if ideally, if you didn't have felony murder, say, would you still agree that the person, like, would you still want it to be a thing? Like, let's say, would you go for lower than first-degree murder in the case of an accidental death during a felony?
Who are you asking?
Oh, I was asking Lex.
In the case of, like, if felony murder was not available and someone still died in the act of your crime and you're committing a felony, yes, I think that you should still be held liable for that death, and to the highest degree that you can be. Because for me, I think, like, these are just innocent people at a bank trying to live their lives. If what you're doing causes someone to die, like, I think that you should be held completely liable for that. I
think that I messed up on this live stream. And the reason I think I messed up is I think we should have done murder before we done felony murder. The reason, as we're talking now, I realize that I think we are kind of lumping all the kinds of punishment for homicide together. And first degree, second degree, even third degree, manslaughter, those are, well, felony murder is up there too, but those are still available. Very much available. Like, we still can use them, but I that's not, we're going to continue in the framework that we have it, but I do think there might be that is a setup problem. And Vanessa did tell me that it's weird that I jumped into felony murder instead of doing murder first. So that's on me.
I thought we did a while ago.
We did punishment, and in the conversations on punishment, we did talk about murder. But murder can be broken down with cases, and I think that would have been fun also.
I think that there's one issue when we're talking about retribution, in that an accident is unintended and unforeseen and would not reasonably be expected to happen. And when we're talking about an accidental death in the course of a bank robbery, I think that the better word is reckless disregard.
No, because
Because
if we use reckless disregard, we get into a separate. We can get into sort of depraved heart, which if you get to depraved heart, you don't need felony murder as a sort of bootstrapping tool to get to murder. Because if you can prove depraved heart, you don't need felony murder.
well, if like in Lex's example about selling ketamine or fentanyl, it's one thing to sell it as is. It's another thing altogether where you're selling one thing laced with another. And
Exactly.
the expectation for the person who bought it is that you're selling them whatever it is you said you're selling them. If you're selling them something laced and you know that it's laced, what you're doing is you have a reckless disregard for the consequences of you selling them the drugs in the first place.
Thank you.
It's not that you necessarily wanted them to die. It's not premeditated to kill them necessarily. It might be, but it isn't.
So we're still going to be at lacing the drug, since selling drug itself is illegal. So like it doesn't add that you're lacing it, but it could go to, again, reckless disregard.
And so that's different in my mind than just selling them and they accidentally OD because it was laced with something, versus, yeah, I know I'm selling it to you. I'm cutting it specifically for my own profits, and not caring what happens. That's where I think there's an argument to be made in favor of expanding felony murder.
I mean, I don't think that's an argument to expand as much as to prove like literal intent in the case of murder when it comes to either sort of, well, it's not intentional infliction of bodily harm, but it could be depraved heart. Depraved heart gets to the mens rea for malice aforethought is a requirement in terms of intent for murder, and you can get there through depraved heart, which is reckless indifference to an unjustifiable high risk to human life. And so I feel like you could prove that in such a case.
Can I ask a question that I'd like them to elaborate on a little bit?
Yeah.
I was going to say, is it okay? So if someone's thinking about committing a crime or doing something illegal, and it falls under those BARRK things that they're going to do, criminal acts.
You can pronounce bark.
Bark. Okay, so imagine you're in that mindset. You think to yourself, either you're going into a situation that you're going to exploit or leverage the fact that this is a lesser threat, or that you're going to exploit someone that's at a lower threat level than you in order to do this crime. So you think there's going to be a lower level of danger for yourself. But it's reasonable that the other extreme of that is all of these acts that you're thinking about committing, if there is a force there that is able to overcome you, you could really get hurt or physically die yourself. I feel like it could come in two boxes before somebody does that. If you go to rob a place, someone could be there that can shoot you. If you go to rape someone, they can have a weapon and fend you off and kill you. So you don't have regard for your own safety or life. So I'm wondering why, if someone lost a loved one, why we should care about yours too.
If someone lost a loved one, we should do what?
If in the act of you trying to leverage your power over a situation in order to create that situation where somebody then died due to your actions or chaos that you've caused, why the person who died or the state or whatever should feel empathy towards you where you didn't even care about your own life or how this could even affect you.
I think the way empathy is being used is inappropriate because I don't think empathy is the thing that we should care about now. Like, it's not to empathize with the individual who engage in the conduct, but I think it's about proportionality, right? Punishment for things done in a way that seems just. Is it just to punish someone for murder who intended to rob a place? And the question is, are we as a society saying that robbery that results in the death of someone is the same as first-degree murder? Or is it something different?
Can I jump in here?
Yeah.
Okay, so sorry for jumping in and out like that. I was having internet problems. I don't agree with felony murder. I don't think it makes sense. The way it's employed is, I feel, draconian and honestly kind of, I think it's crazy. I don't agree with it at all. I do think that if someone commits a felony and someone else dies in the process, not necessarily by their hand, then yes, it makes sense to hold that person accountable for that death to a certain extent. I do think that first-degree murder is nonsensical because it's not. First-degree murder is supposed to be premeditated and intentional. And if someone dies by accident, then it does not make any sense to charge that person with first-degree murder,
All right, wait.
especially if they did not actually kill that person.
Gotcha. It's the same. Lock them up. No, I mean, they will be locked up. The question is not whether or not they should be punished. It's how much they should be punished. But Super, are you saying that you would be okay in a world where someone planned the murder of someone else, but does so in a sort of, in the commission of a felony and then lies about, just sort of lies and say, oh, I didn't have the intent to kill, but I did have the intent to commit this felony. They just happened to die there. Felony murder prevents that
I
from
mean, I
happening.
guess that could be used as a loophole. I guess there are always loopholes. The thing is, I don't live in America. I live in Sweden. We don't have this law here. So for me, when I first heard about it a few years ago, I thought it was crazy, and I still think it is mostly a crazy law. But I can say that we've had cases here where I wish that we did have some type of punishment for deaths that occur during the process of someone committing a felony, because there have been situations here where people have been able to get away with things that they shouldn't have been able to get away with. So I guess I would like a middle ground of some sort.
Yeah, I think that's what most scholars are arguing for. All right, let's go to another case. People versus Howard.
I was going to ask really quickly, Themis, if felony murder is not a thing, how many times can someone commit it? Because some of these crimes you can get out after a while. How many of those crimes where there's accidental deaths are allowed at that point? Because if it's just on the table and you don't get charged, you can come out and do the same thing and somebody else die and keep going and keep going.
Exactly.
Wait, I don't understand what you're saying.
So if a felony murder charge is not on the table and there's an accidental death while you're doing a crime, right? After a certain amount of time, so I'm assuming your charge is going to be reduced to a certain extent. So then you're out again, and then it happens again, and somebody else dies, and then you're out again, and then
you can heighten punishment, right? So instead of treating robbery like robbery when someone dies, you can actually impose a larger penalty and keep them in longer for robbery that results in a death outside of calling it first-degree murder.
And what about if it's different every time? Person rapes somebody, she has a panic attack or aneurysm and dies. Next
I
time
mean,
you rob somebody, next time
no,
you
I
run
mean,
into
I'm
cops.
not arguing for or against it. I'm going to push back on anyone, whatever people say regarding it. But to your point, though, it doesn't have to be to the most extreme, right? I mean, unless you're saying felony murder should result in the execution of the person committing the felony. There's a possibility that even with felony murder in the sentencing, they will come out.
Yeah, I was going to ask, can you be sentenced to capital punishment for felony murder since it's considered first-degree murder?
Yeah, in a state where a murder would result in a capital punishment as a punishment, yes, it is on the table.
Oh my God, yeah, okay. So no, I don't think that is. I think that's too focused on punishment and retribution, and I think that is inhumane. I don't agree with that.
Yeah, and for someone just asked, it's a good example. Would that be murder in the first degree or felony murder? Felony murder can be, depending on the state, can be murder in the first degree or second, or whatever. They can even have a different rule for it. But ultimately, the felony murder statute in the state will indicate what it is. Generally, felony murder to be in the first degree has to fall under one of those felony that we talked about, BARC. As a general matter, that is kind of, I think Hawaii does not have a felony murder statute. If the robber has a gun, can we assume that the intent was to rob and kill if necessary? Robbery, definitely with a deadly weapon, but robbery is part of BARC, and that's going to be the assumption, but it doesn't matter about the intent to kill when it comes to felony murder. The intent is to rob, and if you get that and someone dies, then they are on the hook for felony murder.
Could I say something to Paris's point?
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think it's the place of the court system to punish people for things they might do. So because you commit a crime, of course it's terrible if they keep going out and committing crime after crime and getting sentenced and released, but you can't punish someone for stuff they haven't done yet. You can't punish them. Well, at least you shouldn't. I don't believe you should punish someone under the assumption that they're just going to keep doing it again and again.
Well, I'm not saying that you should punish them because of what they might do as much as it is how many strikes because with any precedent, right? There's going to be situations where they're more liberal and then more stringent. I hesitate somewhat about this whole law because of the fact that it's going to affect racially across racial and socioeconomic lines a lot different with how they bring this down, right? How they actually apply the law. But to a certain extent, I also have to recognize that the people that will be the most impacted in a negative way, as far as the casualties, will mostly be women and children.
Okay. I actually do agree with the strikes thing. I do. I agree with that.
So the humidifier is not giving.
I put a chat and asked if that was your ghost popping up. I thought nobody else saw that smoke.
Yeah, no, it's the humidifier because the air in here dries out quickly or whatever, but it's not giving. All right, who said they read Howard?
I did. So I thought I read Smith, but I read Howard.
All right. So can you give us the facts of the case?
Okay. So there was a guy who I'm assuming was high. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So there was a guy who stole, I believe it was like a Tahoe. It was a truck or a car. I don't know what a Tahoe is.
The Chevy Tahoe. Yeah.
The Chevy Tahoe. Yeah. So the guy stole a Chevy Tahoe, and then he was driving. The police was going to pull him over. They pulled him over, and as the police were walking up, he was like, "Nope, psych," and then he turned on his car and skirted off. Right. So he dips, and then the police hop in their car. They ensue pursuit, and then they call for backup. They're, dipping and diving, acting like they're in Grand Theft Auto. He made multiple traffic violations in the course of this, and then as he was making one of those final traffic violations, which was, I believe, running a stop sign or running a red light, he hit another car, and then
he ran a stop sign and a red light.
Oh, but I mean, which one was it when the car hit the impacts? Because he did a lot of things.
When he ran the red light, he collided with another car.
Okay. Oh yeah, it was a light because they said the other person's light was green. So the other person's light was green. He ran the red light, hit them. There's 2 people in that car, 2 people in his car. And so the 2 people in the other car, one was killed and one was severely injured. And other facts that I think are relevant is that everybody in the situation was high because it's Fresno.
All right.
Yeah.
So
I'm sorry. When I saw that everybody was high, I was like, where in the world? And then I was like, oh, Fresno.
But the question is, was this sort of wanton disregard for the safety of people in fleeing from the police inherently dangerous? And we are getting this is where inherently dangerous comes in as part of the standard.
I thought
it was here.
The police were not supposed to engage in high-speed chases, especially with as much surveillance and things like that. They can find a car like nothing.
Oh, that's another element of it. Like, so the police, they initiated the pursuit to make sure that they knew where the suspect was, but then when they called for backup, at a certain point, they decided to fall back. But as they decided to fall back, that's when he ran the light and hit the other car.
It was a felony for him to run away, essentially, drive away. But the question is whether or not this is inherently dangerous. Now, you and I might have differing opinions on this, but don't stick to the court's opinion. You can form your own.
Me?
Anyone. LB, you read it. You just gave the facts. So does anyone besides LB have an opinion on whether or not this should be considered? This should be under felony murder, and why?
I mean, with the system that we have, then yes, that's felony murder. But I still don't believe that should be first degree murder.
The system we have is about to change in this case. So, why would it not be for you?
To me, it always goes back to intent. Like, he didn't go out there with the intention. Like, he should definitely catch a charge for, I don't know, like vehicular manslaughter or something. But he shouldn't get first degree murder when that wasn't his intent.
All right.
Maybe a DUI as well, since he was high.
Well, what if it's not first degree murder? What if felony murder here would be second degree, or just third degree? Would you be fine with that?
I'd be okay with third degree. With second degree, I'd probably be a little on the fence, but I would be more comfortable with second or third degree, definitely.
All right. Is what he's doing inherently dangerous? Anyone?
The high-speed chase part?
Let's go.
Sorry.
Let's do super.
I was just wondering, could you quickly define second and third degree murder? Because I'm not entirely sure of the distinctions there.
No, that's fine. Think second. The only useful thing for us now, because we're gonna have to do murder, and so I'll do it then. And if I try to do it now, I have to explain fully murder in the first, second, and third as it comes to intent. So don't think about the sort of mens rea mental state for it. Think about the punishment. The most severe punishment goes to first degree, then second degree, third, so on and so forth.
Oh, okay.
The reason I'm doing that is not that I don't want to, it's that it will take up too much time.
No, I understand. Okay, so for me, I would say
the question is about inherently dangerous. Is running away from the police the felony? Is the felony in this case inherently dangerous?
yes, a high-speed chase is very dangerous. So yeah, say
Well,
so.
you said high-speed chase, but can you look at the felony, which is again trying to escape custody of the police? Let's use that. Is that inherently dangerous? And this is important in the abstract.
No, not inherently. No, in this situation it was, but not inherently.
Why?
Because he's using a vehicle to try to escape and driving recklessly.
Do you think the judge should care about the rule in terms of what is written, or well, they should, but to the extent that the actual actions were inherently dangerous, do you think that matters in a case where you're reading a law that might be vague?
I'm sorry. Could you rephrase that? I was
Sorry,
not. I didn't follow.
When I said it, I knew it was going to be convoluted. I apologize. So when we think about the law and interpretation of the law, right? If they're saying, if the statute said cannot engage in inherently dangerous activity, and they were driving quickly, hot pursuit, that you think is inherently dangerous, like the specific facts of this case, you would agree is inherently dangerous.
Yes.
All right. Does that matter when it comes to how you interpret the law, if the law you think is vague?
Oh, I think that could leave room for different interpretations, I guess. But I don't see really how in this case you wouldn't be able to escape the fact that this was a dangerous act, and that it was reasonable to expect that there would be a fatality as a result.
I was trying to find the actual verbiage of the statute. So the fact attempts to elude a pursuing peace officer where the pursued vehicle is driven in a willful or wanton disregard for the safety of persons or property, defined as driving where there are three or more violations assigned to or traffic violations have occurred. So if the law says you cannot having three or more traffic violation is wanton disregard, does that seem right to you? And does that does that meet the standard for inherently dangerous?
No. So any type of traffic, I don't know. I mean, I think that is hard for me to say.
So there's a new standard being developed here, obviously. The new standard is inherently dangerous. The question is, what is inherently dangerous? We have a statute attempting to define inherently. Well, it's trying to define something by saying if you have three or more traffic violation, that is willful and wanton disregard for the safety of another person. But the statute can say what the statute say, but does that mean it's inherently dangerous for the court to say felony murder?
Yeah. I'll let someone else go.
Is that three separate times? As in, like, I was driving on Monday and passed a red light, and then Tuesday.
I think it's in the same action, in the same sequence. Sorry.
I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. I feel like passing lights and stuff like that is not you're not trying to put people in danger. I feel like sometimes people just forget to put on their signal lights. Like it differs for me.
If we're going to step back and say, okay, it's not about putting people in danger. You're not intentionally trying to put people in danger, but is it inherently dangerous?
It is kind of dangerous. It is.
No.
But
even if it is kind of, is it inherently? Is by virtue of doing the thing dangerous? Chris?
Yeah, it is dangerous.
Wait, Chris, go ahead.
So I think that evading arrest or resisting arrest isn't inherently dangerous, but it's inherently stupid.
All right. But even if it is inherently stupid, the standard is inherently dangerous. So this would not meet the standard for felony murder for you because it's inherently stupid, not inherently dangerous.
Unless you, and this is where as I understand it, there's aggravating factors that can elevate it from being charged as a misdemeanor to being charged as a felony.
Well, it is a felony here.
Right, but and I think it really depends. I think when you undertake an action where you've decided that you are going to evade arrest at all costs, then it is inherently dangerous.
But we didn't hear at all costs, and we don't do that we're doing it in the abstract. So
right. In the abstract, no, it would not.
So you come out on evading arrest is stupid but not inherently dangerous. So you would not charge this person with felony murder.
Not based just on evading arrest. No.
All right.
Yeah, and then on top of that, I feel like I would also have to consider the fact that they were all very intoxicated, so that like everything that they're doing, while yes, it's dangerous, it's crazy, they're also very, very high. Like I can't charge somebody the same way if they don't have the same mental capacity as somebody that's sober.
Wait, so wouldn't you be charging someone for drinking and driving?
Yes, because you made the decision to get drunk while you were sober.
Someone said, what case is this? I'm just commenting, LOL. This is People versus Howard. So the court agrees with all of you. Actually, I can admit this. I'm kind of taken aback by it because even if we're going to say inherently dangerous, resisting arrest or trying to evade, right? Isn't inherently dangerous. Inherently dangerous would not be the standard I use. Well, inherently dangerous would be the standard I use, but it wouldn't be in the abstract. I think that was them not wanting to apply felony murder because they wanted to. They didn't want to apply it. I think they just didn't want to apply it. So that's where I'm gonna go with that. All right. So Lex is no longer here. Paris is no longer here. But they both articulated the standard for inherently dangerous, which has now been applied. So moving forward, the action, at least in California, most of the country too, for it to be captured under the felony murder statute, it's no longer the weird kind of murder felony equals for felony murder homicide felony homicide equals felony murder. It's now felony homicide happened or murder, whatever, homicide, and then that the felony has to be inherently dangerous for us to get to felony murder. Right? All right. We're going to add another limitation, and this one is merger. I am assuming no one read People versus Smith either. So no one read People versus Smith. Going once, going twice. All right. No one read it.
I read it, but not enough to explain it. Like I was reading it a few minutes ago.
All right. So People versus Smith, we had the defendants had two daughters, age 3.5 and age 2. The 2-year-old refused to sit on the couch instead of the floor to eat a snack. So Dee spanked the 2-year-old or slapped the 2-year in the face. and then kept repeatedly hitting the 2-year-old. The boyfriend joined in, hitting the 2-year-old. The 2-year-old fell, hitting her head on the closet door, and died. Yeah, that's it. So the 2-year-old would not sit on the couch. They sat on the floor. Mom got upset, hit her in the face, keep hitting her. Boyfriend joins in. They're hitting the child. Child falls back. Oh, also trigger warning. Why am I the worst person ever? I'm just really not good at this. I apologize. I mean, I'm saying trigger warning after I just explained all of it. I'm probably just gonna put this for private the stream after, but it's fine. Yeah, I'm gonna probably private this. Anywho, felony murder, yes or no?
Yes.
What does felony murder do in your mind?
In my mind, it makes sure that they're basically away forever. And I feel like if you've taken the life of someone...
No. I do appreciate that, but that's not the question. And I think the reason you answer is because I didn't ask it properly. Felony murder does what in terms of intent?
It piggybacks on top of the assault and treats the assault as the same as the intent mens rea required for murder.
All right. So it's strict liability then. So because you engage in this conduct, which is felonious, it's a felony, then and a death occurred, you now are liable for the death even though you did not intend to kill. All right. What is the problem here?
It arises from the same conduct.
All right. So why is that a problem?
Because you're using the elements to convict for assault, and you're simply piggybacking first-degree murder on top of that when they're not two distinct acts. It was the assault that led to the homicide.
All right. And we have a child abuse statute, which here there was a resulting death. It was integral to the homicide, which is what you're saying. The beating of the child and the child falling back and hitting her head was integral to her dying. And thus, what we would be doing right now is bootstrapping into felony murder, which we cannot do. There is no other independent purpose of the conduct, right? And so the abuse of the child in this way is directly linked to the death. So you cannot separate the felony from the death that occurred. Does that make sense? This is called murder, by the way.
I think it makes sense.
Yeah, so it's just a murder, right?
Well, it depends. You now have to prove murder, and you have to prove. So on one hand, you have to prove murder, and I mean, the prosecutor is going to throw the kitchen sink at you, right? And so you're going to have to prove murder and child abuse, or switch that around because child abuse was the lesser, I think, of the two.
Okay, so I mean, if felony murder would get her convicted, maybe I'm a bit of a hypocrite, but like, yeah, in that scenario, definitely.
Well, in that scenario, most courts are unwilling to do it.
Wait, in that scenario, most courts wouldn't put you in jail?
No. You can go to jail. I think, again, this is also a problem. You can go to jail and you will be punished, but that you would be punished under a felony murder sort of verdict is unlikely. Because the action for the felony and the action for the abuse are one and the same. They merged. There's no independent purpose for which you engaged in the felony outside. I mean, I guess your intent could be.
So what's the issue with charging her for murder? Then what's the issue with charging her for murder?
Oh, there's no issue. They're probably going to attempt, but now you have to prove intent.
But I feel
problem
sorry.
With the problem with that idea is that it would basically be like including charging someone for both attempt and for the completed crime.
Yeah, and wait, before you continue, Chris, great point, but also it would be, if felony assault is a thing ever anywhere, which it is, you can literally just start locking people up for first degree murder or whatever, felony murder, under felony murder statute. Does that make sense? Because if there is a sort of assault on your personhood, felonious, obviously, and someone dies from that, you don't ever have to prove intent to kill. You could just bootstrap. Chris's way of explaining, I think, was also useful if he will repeat and continue.
Sure. So the idea would be charging someone with both the attempt and with the actual crime. And you can't, it's just like you, Themis was saying, it's just bootstrapping. The lesser charge of attempt, you're using that to prove or use the elements and proving, well, he attempted, and that's the same as following through and committing, but we're only going to use the elements of attempt to prove the completion.
Yeah. Does that make sense? Why scholars decided merger is an issue, and to the extent that they merge, we cannot use felony murder. I know y'all want her to go to prison, both of them, and they probably will, but not under a felony murder sort of verdict. Does that make sense? Does anyone have questions?
Yeah, I have a question as to proving the intent. You would then have to look at what at the degree of assault. That I feel like two grown adults slapping a 2-year-old, hitting a 2-year-old. There must have been intent to cause serious harm there.
Yeah, and so for murder, you don't need felony murder. You can try them under murder for, like, at common law, it's intent, malice aforethought. So it's intent to kill. It's going to be very difficult to get them on intent to kill. I mean, if the jury might just say yes. But
I mean, it would depend on were they hitting her with things? Were they just using their palms? Like,
yeah, I mean, the child was 2-year-old, so maybe if you get a sympathetic enough jury, you probably could get intent to kill. So you can go up to first degree. But intent to inflict grievous bodily harm. Like, you could definitely, I'm not going to say definitely, but you could possibly get that, right?
Yeah, I think so.
And even if not that, depraved heart. So acting with reckless disregard for an unjustifiable high risk of human life, to human life, sorry.
Yeah.
So, I mean, murder is not off the table. You could still try them for murder and possibly win without trying to bootstrap. Go ahead, Chris.
Could they have been charged with conspiracy to engage in child abuse or conspiracy to engage in assault and then use that as the predicate felony?
I mean, the actions you engage in would directly still... Wait, conspiracy, you're saying if they planned it beforehand?
Or if they planned it, or, well, if the boyfriend entered into an agreement by joining in. There was a conspiracy for the two of them to engage in an assault and child abuse. And I think that would probably rise to a felony.
If you're getting to the conspiracy through their actions, then no, because it still would merge.
I'm
saying no, but know that this is not a definitive no. I'm operating as a judge and you're coming to my court. But obviously, maybe other judges might feel differently.
Because I think that the conspiracy gets around the merger. Because
if you're looking at the actions to get to the conspiracy, I don't think so.
I feel like I'm in the minority, but I don't really believe in corporal punishment to the point that you're like physically abused. Like I don't even like when people slap their kids. That's like, for me, I feel like
that's a separate conversation, though, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But whether or not that kind of punishment resulting in death indicates an intent is a more interesting question for the purpose of this conversation.
Sorry. I do feel that like if you're hitting a 2-year-old child, like you should expect them to basically die. Their bodies are not completely formed. They're small, they're very fragile, and like.
So you would go with intent to kill?
Yeah. Yes, I would.
Go straight up there for first degree, period.
Yeah, like I feel like you should be like away forever and no children should ever be near you.
But you're saying that thing, you would also add on the rest just in case.
Yes, I would.
All right.
But they also send.
Go ahead, Z.
They sent the child to the hospital, so like technically they didn't actually intend to kill the child. So it's still manslaughter, or like however you put it, but it wouldn't be necessarily first degree either.
Yeah, I think if you want first degree, it is going to be a very hard uphill battle. But I'm not going to tell you as a prosecutor not to go for all of it. Throw the kitchen sink at them and see what sticks.
I also feel like there are people who would who would murder somebody and then go with them to the hospital, call the 911, and be with them at the hospital. I wouldn't discount those people, because I feel like them saying, "Oh, we called 911 and we went to the hospital." That's just them covering their tracks.
Well, you don't know that either. Like we can't necessarily police intent that well. Like we can guess, we can have evidence for their intent, but we can't just say this is what their intent without any evidence behind it.
Yeah, and I think felony murder removes that sort of back and forth and just rests at we don't care if your intent was to kill. We're just gonna say that you intended to cause us engage in felony and a death results, so you're going to be charged in the murder in the first degree.
This is an odd question maybe, but does like spanking and stuff like that fall under child abuse or no?
It depends on what state you're in. Spanking generally is something that apparently our society has rejected.
Okay.
But slapping a child across the face and beating them is very different, in my opinion, than spanking them.
Yeah, but like some people see it as the same exact thing, and so like I don't know how like you would necessarily police it and define it if everyone has a different view on like how.
Wait, go ahead.
Sorry. If they had, it'd be hard to prosecute if everyone has their own definition of child abuse. Because, like, slapping slapping is considered child abuse, but spanking has two different connotations for two different people in that sense.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, it's generally standardized in a league when we're thinking about a legal framework.
I had a question.
Go ahead.
I was wondering when Zizi said it would be difficult to prosecute. Is that because of the jury? Like, that was the only thing I could think of. Like, because the law's going to be set, but the jury will have different feelings and stuff. And like the jury has like standards that they're supposed to work with, but they be going off feeling.
Yeah, because if juries are like, doesn't the defendant choose if the jury gets to or not? Like, there's a juror.
Wait, doesn't the defendant? So there's a voir dire process when it comes to jury selection. And if you have good attorneys, they'll battle it out there. An excellent attorney, however, could prove intent. So I'm not sure if intent is ever truly proven, but yeah, I mean, we use all kind of reasonable person standard, and the jury just go back and make up whatever they want to make. Let me stop. I respect the jury. Yeah, sure. Excellent attorneys can prove intent.
But it's the narrative how you tell it, right? It's how you tell the narrative. That's the thing.
Yeah. So let's I'm going to add something before we jump into like a broader discussion. So there is another limitation in some state, and it's the agency sort of limitation. So there is a proximate cause approach, and there is an agency approach. The agency approach is a limitation. That is, if the person who directly causes the death of another person was not one of the people engaged in the felony, then you cannot attribute the death to the people engaged in the felony. Does that make sense?
Can you repeat that one more time?
So in the agency approach, right, the death has to occur in furtherance of a felony. So what that means is one of the felons, you're not a felon until convicted, but that's me simplifying it, right? So if a non-felon, for example, like the police, shoots someone that's robbing a bank, someone dies, you are not on the hook for felony murder because you didn't cause the death, right?
Mm-hmm.
The proximate cause approach doesn't care. If you're robbing a bank and you're running away and the police shoots someone, shoots after you and someone else on a bike got shot and died, you're on the hook for felony murder, even if you didn't kill the person. Or none of the other felons killed the person. The police actually did the killing. How do you all feel about that?
I feel like the police should go to jail for killing somebody.
That's not gonna happen.
Let the police go to jail.
Wait.
I don't agree with
No.
that.
Wait. I'm gonna push back a little bit on this. Think about what you just said, though. The police shows up to a robbery. Things are going down, and they attempt to stop the robber by shooting the robber, and they kill someone by mistake. Do you think the police should be charged? Do you think the felons should be charged? Or do you think no one should be charged?
The felon.
The police.
Yeah, I think
Police.
it should be.
Police.
So I think I'll pick up Lex's mantle on this one, because she talked about someone just going about their business in the bank. But were it not for the actions of the robber, there would be no reason for the police to have showed up in the first place. And not showing up means they wouldn't have drawn their weapons and they wouldn't have fired, and no one would have been shot. No one would have been killed.
So
Yeah,
the
but they get
felon,
trained.
wait, before we go, the felon should be charged, and you are someone who would advocate for the proximate causation approach.
Yes.
All right. Who was speaking?
Sorry, it was me. I was just saying that there must be some responsibility somewhere because they were trained. You can't just say have a mistake at shooting someone.
You haven't seen the news in America. Next case.
Can I just say?
Oh, sorry.
Is that Reese? Go ahead, Reese, and then LB.
Yeah, I don't know because I think it's so inconsistent. Because if you look at these white collar crimes, right? They do like Oxycontin, and they literally have millions of people.
Your mic is going in and out for me.
Okay, is that better?
Nope, I can barely hear you. It's like a very staticky thing. Maybe, I don't know.
Okay, then I'll try to come back.
All right, go ahead, LB.
I was just gonna say that I don't think it's that difficult to imagine a situation in which somebody commits a crime, the cops show up and they shoot at the criminal and hit somebody else, and it's
a case about that.
That's not something you can,
There's a case on point, but yeah, continue.
Yeah, I read it. I definitely read a case when I was in school, and I felt like it was fully justified because, like, essentially it was like they shot at the criminal dipped, and somebody else got shot. I think it was like a robbery or something. But to me, like, to say the cops should be trained better, you can't be trained to, like, there's certain stuff you are trained for, right? You're trained to decide when you should and shouldn't shoot, like if there's civilians in the way or not. But like, for instance, say you're in a bike.
Wait. This can actually happen. Someone just pointed this out, and this is also true. You can be charged under the proximate cause rule if not a police who should be trained, but if the shopkeeper in self-defense, because they fear for their life, shoots at someone who had a gun at them and they miss and shot someone and that person died. Mm-hmm. In an armed robbery case, should the person who is robbing the place be charged for felony murder?
Yes, because they're both responsible. The shopkeeper and the person who was robbing the place.
Wait, you think the shopkeeper should be charged?
Not with murder, but
wait. So if the shopkeeper is like well within their rights in terms of self-defense for pulling the gun and shooting, right? You think there should be an added sort of crime when someone dies from that outside, like there was no intent to kill?
For me, it's more of like a manslaughter type situation because
what? I thought it was like wait.
No, why are you laughing at me?
I'm not laughing at you. I'm just like y'all are just some really strict people up here.
Well, so to me, it depends on the situation, and like I don't think in every situation, yes, but I think in some situations it would call for it. Like, for instance, if there was a crowd behind the robber and the shop owner chose to shoot anyways, because at that point, like that's not the choice that you should be making in that situation. Like, yeah, it sucks, you might get shot, but like also you could kill somebody while you're attempting to defend you and the people there. Like, it's minimum like reckless endangerment of some sort. No, but I'm not strict on holding the shopkeeper accountable, but definitely the person committing the crime. Like the shopkeeper, like do what you want with them, and but I think like morally they both have a responsibility there. But I would say that it's the robber that's ultimately the one that I would push to get charged.
All right.
I don't think anyone in that situation can control physics. It cannot control ricochets. It cannot control you can't control if there's a through and through. And the idea that in the heat of the moment of trying to defend yourself, as long as you're not just spraying on purpose just to spray. I mean, the gun owner, their intent is not to shoot anyone else. Their intent is to defend their life. And if you place a limitation on a person defending themselves in that situation to say, you can go ahead and defend yourself, but if anything else happens as a result of that, you're on the hook for it, you might as well take away the self-defense justification.
You know, I honestly, in retrospect, I agree. I think that the shop owner in that type of situation you shouldn't charge them with anything, because ultimately everything falls back on the choice that the robber made.
So would you charge them?
But I think that, can I say one thing real quick?
Go ahead.
I think that the felony murder charge kind of serves as like a bypass rather than an elimination of intent. And I know that's not what the court says, but that's how I view it, is that it's more of like a bypass in which like the reason that they're able to get rid of the element of intent is because it's almost in a sense like implied intent, because you intentionally disregarded the fact that this could lead to murder. So you intentionally made this action, and you didn't intentionally kill the person, but you intentionally made this action knowing that it could lead to somebody dying.
Yeah. So I don't like the phrasing of in sort of disregarding intent, because intent is there to commit the felony, and it is a strict liability, which is the consequence of your action is now your responsibility. So even in the cases where there aren't, like, BART doesn't apply, but there are felonies that are dangerous, you can still, inherently dangerous, you can still be prosecuted under felony murder statute for a lesser degree of murder. And I do think they are actually trying to like bypass intent. Like that's, I think like this is probably one of the first times where I'm like, yeah, the stated goal is what they want, which kind of feels annoying to do that.
Can you hear me now?
Nope. I mean, I can hear you, but it's still like, I mean, if you do it quickly, I think we can grunt and bear.
Okay, I'm against felony murder just because I think the law should be fair. Now, you have these white-collar criminals who, like, say, the OxyContin, they killed a lot of people, and they knew that drug would get them. Not one of them would charge murder. Or there's been car companies who knew that there was something wrong with it, and they actually calculated that it would be less money to let people die. And, you know, get it, if they're not charged, they don't even go to jail. So I think the law is supposed to be fair. So how can you say this person robbing a bank, if someone dies, you know, should be charged with murder? But a lot of people die with these white-collar criminals when they do this, and they don't even go to jail.
I mean, I don't think I would draw that same equivalency, but I completely agree on they should go to jail. And I think the corporate veil should be pierced. When I say bypassing intent, I'm talking about bypassing the specific intent to kill, not the intent to commit the felony.
I think it's kind of insane to say that someone who pulls out a gun, you know, even if they're trying to protect themselves or they're trying to do their job as a police officer, like, you're responsible if you shoot someone by accident. I don't believe in putting that charge of murder onto the person you were trying to stop when you shot someone else.
Really? That's an interest. Why?
Because you have to, first of all, there's a certain amount of responsibility that you have as, you know, a gun owner or a police officer. And if you go spraying willy-nilly and you hit someone else, you know, maybe they were on a bike and they just came in the way, but that you still shot them. That's not,
But
you can make an argument that,
if we can,
okay, go ahead.
if we can, so would you agree that pulling a gun and shooting it at someone who is coming at you with a gun is self-defense?
Yes.
If you miss, does it make it less self-defense?
No, but you're still responsible if you miss and you hit someone else, in my opinion.
Should I be responsible in that case if I'm defending myself, or should the aggressor be responsible?
I think you both hold some form of responsibility, but
So
I would put
if I cannot use a gun properly, Texas, I should not be defending myself with it.
I actually agree with that, yes.
All right. So if someone is coming at me with a gun and I have a gun, because I'm not completely sure that I'm good at it, I should do what?
I mean, you can try, but if you hurt someone else, I think you're responsible for that.
So essentially, you're saying I should not protect myself with a gun.
No.
But
I'm
if
saying
I
that
do,
I'm just saying that if you do it and you hit someone else, I think you're the one responsible for that.
but in the case of self-defense, the reason I'm pulling a gun is because I'm being attacked. Do you not? Do you? Where does this come out for you? If you are, do you actually think this would be useful in a society to punish people who are attempting to defend themselves but make a mistake than punish the person who they needed defending from?
Can you repeat that? I'm sorry.
So you think it is, and this is not giving my opinion. I just want to think about yourself. Think about this. So you're saying in defending yourself, you do not put the liability completely on the person who caused you to be in sort of need for defense.
I put some responsibility on them. I wouldn't make it felony murder.
So if I'm fragile, eggshell plaintiff, I'm just a fragile person who is like shaking and just like scared, and you come and you scare me and you're attacking me, I am essentially defenseless if I'm not like not defenseless, but like I could be liable for something that happens outside in my protection of myself. If it's reasonable, if my approach to self-defense is reasonable and still something happens and it is actual self-defense, like I'm so scared, I thought I was going to die and in this robbery, and I tried to defend myself and someone else is harmed. After you've created an environment where I needed self-defense, I should be blamed for someone else getting hurt, even though you're the one who threatened me.
I honestly...
No. Kenny, go ahead.
Did you hurt the other person?
Yeah, I hurt someone else.
I do think you're responsible for that. I don't think you should get like serious jail time or anything like that, but I think you're responsible for that.
I think this is where
I don't think that he would be responsible, or like if you're defending yourself, you're defending yourself. Like, are we supposed to just allow people to
pause? We're talking about in the sort of a kind of moral quagmire, not really in a sort of legal sense, because you wouldn't. I mean, I'm not saying you wouldn't be, but if you can prove self-defense, you should be fine. But go ahead, Allie.
I feel like even morally, like what people do in like that moment of fight or flight is, I don't think we should judge them for defending themselves and getting somebody else killed, because I feel like the reason why that person is dead is because there was somebody who decided to come in and harm a group of people intentionally. And I feel like in order for somebody to be morally judged for something like that, they would have to intentionally try to murder that person. And that's just not true in that case.
Yeah.
So I have a bit of pushback on that.
Before you do your pushback, can you explain the principle underpinning your stance a bit more?
You mean explain why I believe it's the responsibility of the person who's fired?
Yeah.
Well, I just think it's as simple as, obviously there would be exceptions to this, but I think if you're going to defend yourself with a firearm, then you should be, equipped to use it properly. Like it shouldn't.
But what if you are equipped to use it properly? Mistake still happens. And it's not like you initiated the circumstance for which you now need defense. I'm finding that hard to digest, as you can see.
Yeah, and even people that are like experts with guns still make mistakes. So like you can't be like, you have to be expertly trained in shooting people. Like you can never be an expert in shooting, because that's a very hard skill.
So I agree insofar as you should not be using a firearm if you are not comfortable and trained and know how to use it properly. That said, you cannot control physics of ricochet. You can make an absolutely clean shot against the aggressor, but if that bullet bounces, you have no control over that. Although, yes, you do take into consideration what is behind you. I mean, the first rule of gun use is never point a weapon at anything you don't intend to destroy. So, yes, you intend to stop that person, but you have no intent to recklessly use that firearm in a self-defense situation. And it really comes down to the reasonable person standard. And I think that charging them after the fact is it's extremely punitive, because that person going through what someone who's been involved in a defensive use shooting, it's already traumatic that they've gone through that. Not just being the victim of an attempted crime, but now you're going to pile on and charge them, even though it was a good shoot and you've been cleared in a self-defense standard, but you're still going to pile on because of someone else getting hurt. That just seems abusive.
How do you respond to that?
So the push.
No.
Right.
How do you respond to that, Kenny?
I can kind of see that point, but I still believe that it's your responsibility, honestly. I don't necessarily think that you should be charged. I just don't believe that what you did by accident should be put on to another person, if that makes sense.
So, in my mind, someone is on the wrong side of the road driving towards you, and you pull out of the way, and you hit someone in pulling out of the way. Would you blame the person who like turned away?
No.
So what is the difference there for you?
I'm not completely sure. I guess, I mean, the thing is, I wouldn't charge the other driver either with the murder of that, or, assume they died. I also wouldn't charge the driver of the other car for the
What if
murder.
that driver was purposely in the lane to kill the other driver in an accident?
But they ended up killing someone else.
Nope.
Well, no, they caused someone else to
die.
Kill someone else. Yeah, I still wouldn't put it on them. I would want them to go away for like attempted murder, definitely, but I wouldn't necessarily. I think it's too many connecting
No, that's fine.
points.
But you wouldn't. So who would the victim's family go to for recompense? Like what happens to he's just dead?
No.
So you're not going to charge the person who turned out of the way and killed him. You're not going to charge the person who caused the other person to turn out of the way and kill him. So he's just dead.
I mean, yeah, kind of.
I mean, accidents happen, and there's not always someone culpable.
No, there is someone culpable here.
Can I challenge
Wait, pause. The whole point is that there is culpability here.
Okay, so look, I just want to say that I think that this whole idea that you, for example, if we turn to the scenario of pulling out a gun and misfiring it and killing someone else, I do think that person should be held accountable who misfired the gun, even if they were acting in self-defense. And I think that this has unfortunately been used as an excuse and a loophole for a lot of police officers who have claimed that they feared for their lives and they thought the person that they were going to shoot at was. Sorry.
No, this doesn't apply to police in the same way, which is why I changed the scenario because
because I would hold police officers way accountable on a higher level than a regular civilian.
Well, the law doesn't.
Yeah, I know.
What about if Kyle Rittenhouse would have shot more people in the crowd that he wasn't aiming for? He got off on self-defense. Do those people, are they just dead?
I mean, they are just dead now.
Yeah, the court decided
I mean, I don't buy his self-defense argument. So.
Can I
wait. We're disrupting the person
He was
talking
being a
about Kyle
terrorist.
Rittenhouse. Wait, the person talking about Kyle Rittenhouse. Can you continue?
Yeah, this is Paris. I was saying that if Kyle Rittenhouse, because he technically got off with self-defense, right? Because those two guys.
I mean, it's not like he technically got it. He got off on self-defense.
Well, he got off, right? So if he had stray bullets and they hit other people in the crowd that were innocent bystanders and cops, what happens to that? Are those people just now dead?
But
the
aren't
people
they
that he wasn't
already dead?
having self-defense charges with?
Yeah, but if he didn't kill the aggressor, you could go after the aggressor.
I'm saying that
I don't think
in
this
his
is the same
process
thing,
of
though.
quote unquote defending himself, right? Because he's defending himself is how they positioned it in the case. That's what he got off with, right? So if he's defending himself from
No,
these
I mean, you can wait. I think arguing that it's not self-defense is different than saying it is self-defense, but you still should be charged for the death. Because I would argue it's not self-defense, and that would be my argument. You don't then get to sort of go after someone after saying, okay, it's self-defense.
No. I'm saying that if he was, because again, he got off for self-defense for those two people. If other people in the crowd that was not a part of that skirmish got hit and died, are those people that got caught in his attempt, quote unquote, of self-defense, are they just now dead because he gets off?
Yeah, but if you want to go after someone, it would not be him. It would be the person who caused him to be in defense of self.
But that's what I'm saying. If he's saying he's just the same thing as a shop owner shooting into a crowd and hitting people he wasn't aiming at, it's the same premise.
No, because we also have a burglar.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So felony murder would hold the person, if we're talking about the proximate cause, right? Jurisdiction, it would hold the person with the gun attempting to burglarize a place liable for the death of people who got shot in the process of burglarizing.
I thought we were then talking on the next point about if that shopkeeper was defending his property, hits other people in the crossfire. The same way if
I mean,
there's
there's a question about deadly force to protect property, but self-defense in this case would work.
so then does that still create this shopkeeper problem? Because he's saying he's protecting himself. The person he hits the person, they die, but then the people caught in the crossfire.
Yeah, you can sue the person who, the felon.
And then the felon's dead. So the person who was protecting himself from his
Well,
property
in
gets no
reality,
liability.
you can sue the felon's estate.
Okay, because I was just posing that as another option or way of thinking about the shopkeeper situation where
Yeah, I mean, when I say sue the person, I'm not just talking about the person who exists as a felon, but like the estate. So that someone dies doesn't mean there's no civil recourse.
right. I would think about this too when it comes to drive-by shootings, how all those kids get hit by stray bullets and
I mean, wait. To be fair, there's no estate to sue. There's nothing. For a lot of people, there's no estate. I mean, you go and sue and get zero. But I mean, I'm just saying, in terms of liability, there's liability.
I'm like, a rich person could kill you, maybe, possibly.
Yeah, I'm just talking about like just everyday life. Like the
No, I get
person
it.
robbing the store,
They don't
is
have
probably not gonna have sorry, like
That's so mean.
none of this
Okay.
is legal advice, just FYI. All right. Let's ask our last couple questions and wrap it up. We just got to 3 hours, and Zizi didn't even point it out, even though I did tell her on Fridays don't point it out. So she's literally not doing anything wrong.
Can
all
I
right.
say one more thing on that scenario?
Yeah.
I just like on the like it's hard because you guys are gonna be like, ew, don't Blue Lives Matter me, but I don't understand why we treat cops as if they're not humans, as if they're superhuman or they're supposed to be superhuman. They're still
Right.
humans who have a specific job. And so for me, if I'm doing my job by the letter and say I shoot at the criminal dips and I hit somebody else, I still did my job. And if that criminal wasn't committing that criminal act at that moment, I wouldn't even be there with a gun pointed at anybody. So
You
like,
better be defending police right to kill.
I'm sorry, I do come from a law enforcement family.
Mhm.
Well, look, half felons, half law enforcement. Anyways,
No.
like I get both sides. No, seriously, like full disclosure, my mom's a correctional sergeant, my dad's an ex-felon. There and it wasn't no like lockup, nothing weird.
Love after lockup.
It was none of that. My mom
I'm
met my
kidding. I
dad
love
when
your
he
mom. I saw your mom on this channel. There will be no disrespect of LB's
no
mother.
disrespect. Yeah, no, my mom met my dad when he was in the military. My dad got arrested after he got out the military. But still,
I think LB, you're getting too comfortable on the live stream. You're getting too comfortable.
oh, I
There's
don't
too much
even care. Like I
disclosure.
tell everybody that's like because I think it's important for people to understand. Like, yes, I do come from a law enforcement family, and so I have that bias there. But I also come from a family that has quite a few felons. To be honest, I don't associate with everybody in my family, but still, I'm able to see both sides of the coin.
I think the problem is qualified immunity. It's
true.
that they get extra protections that the same civilian in the same exact situation, they don't get those same protections. So I think that's the problem of not holding them to a higher standard is, okay, if you're going to get qualified immunity, or then the trade-off ought to be you're going to be held to a much higher standard.
But they have unions. So is the problem like having them renegotiating their stances? Because like also like they're the ones who also fund the lawyers that protect these police officers. That's
so the best piece of advice that I've heard about being involved in a defensive gun use as a civilian is to find out who the PBA union reps, who they hire, the defense attorneys they hire to represent cops in shootings. That's who you want as a defense attorney, as a civilian, if you're in a situation where you have a defensive gun use. But I mean, there's whole issues with unions and qualified immunity. But again, the problem is that they don't want to be held to a higher standard while still getting protections that are not available to everyday citizens. So I think that's the biggest problem.
So could we not say that we should do a better job protecting our citizens too?
Well, the problem with that is that police have no legal obligation to protect citizens at all. They just have a generalized obligation, but there is no specific duty. I mean, they could be standing in the doorway in this shop and just watch. They don't have an obligation. So that's another problem.
Someone said they're pro-vigilante. I mean, we saw that in Texas. Well, let's not do that. No. Actually, let's end it here, because I think that, first of all, I'm going to step back from this conversation and say thank you to everyone who came up. I actually really did enjoy this conversation. Like, I really did. I kind of nerded out in my mind. So I appreciate that. I wanted to do the discussion without sort of dominating it. So I did appreciate, not me coming back after everything is done. I'm very disappointed in you. You came, dropped the ball, and then left.
I'm sorry I had to go to an appointment and I was driving, and I'm still driving. I'm coming back, and I was excited the live was still continuing. But I love what that gentleman just said. He just brought up that point about and not to derail, but he brought up the point about the cops not being obligated to intervene. And I think that we're seeing that kind of play out with that most recent, school shooting at Euclid. I don't know the name, in Texas, because they're getting a lot of heat for the officers standing outside and not going in, and folks are talking about threatening lawsuits. So I just think that's fairly interesting that that's coming up.
Yeah. And so, like, we're going to hopefully, I think we should have a discussion on police and policing generally. So I think that's important, and we should and will do that. I'm going to do some clarifying things in the after show after LB goes.
Okay. Just in response to something that Chris said earlier. So to me, the reason that we give police qualified immunity, and I know that there are problems with it and we have a lot of work to do. I'm pro reforming the police system. And you can even probably talk me into abolishing, not in the literal sense, but in the figurative sense that people talk about. Me and my mom get in arguments all the time because I'm not as pro blue life as you guys might think. But to me, the qualified immunity is it's not solely a benefit to the cops, but it's also a benefit to the general public. And I know you guys are going to think I'm crazy for that one, but I think that it's a benefit to the general public, because if we don't give cops qualified immunity, who's going to want to do that job? And I know that people say that all the time, but seriously, drop a one if you want to do that job, if you thought that a stray bullet would land you in jail for murder.
I agree with you, LB, and I support police in most cases as well. And I've worked for several police departments in various capacities, over my lifetime. And so just because they're not perfect, and there's a lot that we have to do to kind of correct policing in general, but there is some grace that has to be given, for the job that they're doing, which is extremely dangerous because they are forced to face the worst of the community, on a much more frequent basis than any other natural person would in general. And that's a high risk to themselves and to their families of getting their own lives taken.
Right. And then HopeJoy614 said sociopaths would. And that's exactly my point. Other than sociopaths, who would want to do that job? So like all the people that look good cops don't want to do it because they're afraid of the liability issues. And then now we just have straight sociopaths in our small little police force that's left over. And they're just going to be killing people and going about their business because the sociopaths don't care.
So, all right, the slave catchers, got it.
I get it. And
no.
I'm gonna be out here. You like it, I love it. I'm going to end it here and get into the after show and do some clarifying updates. I wanted to do this because I wanted to sort of dwindle down the viewership for a minute so we can do some real talk before we continue. I'll talk to you in the after show. Please don't leave. Y'all can stay on. I need opinions, and I'm ordering Chick-fil-A. So.
That sounds fun.
All right. So I'm thinking that the sort of legal discussions, I was thinking about how to sort of integrate better content for members, because even when I say don't do it, people do it. And I do actually like the membership. So I'm going to, instead of doing these kinds of discussion publicly, only do it for members. Because I think the people who find it useful are people who are who've been here for a while, not the newer people. The newer people just want sort of contemporary social dialogue, which is fine. I love that too. So I'm going to do that. Unless there are sort of objections, because I don't want it to not be accessible to people who are not members. Or I could do it on my second channel. So how do we want to do this? You guys on the screen can tell me.
Do you want to do a poll, like saying like one in the chat, or like?
You can do the poll.
Me? I don't know how you have.
Go ahead, LB.
I'm gonna be real. I missed the question. What am I polling?
See, they don't even listen. Okay, I'll just make the executive decision because apparently y'all don't want to be involved in those.
I heard you.
Drop a 1 in the chat if you need to know what we're polling.
Wait, no one knows what we're polling. Oh, see, people in the chat were listening, unlike y'all on the screen. People said, I actually enjoy these conversations, which is this person saying, don't do it don't do it only for membership, do it here. People that object, the shade, people know what, if someone said, I object, see, people know what, y'all weren't listening and y'all are mad because you didn't listen and now you don't know what I'm talking about.
We were listening. I was just freaking out that I have to do.
I'm listening.
I think people want to see it. I don't know that it needs to be removed from the main space simply because it won't get as much engagement as the others. I think it would still be nice to have it available for those who are interested, and they could just choose to, listen to other topics if they prefer.
Yeah, but what I was true. Thank you for listening and responding, me, not me, with something that I can use and respond to.
Okay.
What I'm saying though is, instead of taking up time for like Tuesday and Wednesday, should I do it some other time then? Because I don't want to take up time because I don't want people to come in like, oh my God, I want Themis do this. And
I
that's
don't
like,
know.
I mean, this is what.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go
oh,
ahead.
I could change one of the days to make it more academic and make one of the days more cultural.
I like the second option better because I don't think that you should.
You don't get a vote. Neither does Z.
No.
Go ahead, Mina. Mina.
I understood what you were trying to say
Now
them
to
a
me,
vote.
not me. Chris don't get to vote. LB don't get to vote, and Z don't get to vote.
I'm voting in your favor.
Me, not me. Me, not me. What do you think?
Oh, I definitely vote to keep it for the public, and I don't know that the days matter. But if you wanted to do one day serious topic and then another day sort of fluff, that makes sense too. Whichever you prefer. I mean, I like them sporadically. It's nice to always have something interesting and not to kind of know what's coming for me. So, but I don't know how others feel.
All right.
I would say,
agree.
like,
no,
on
I don't know why Chris, LB, and ZZ think they get a say.
Wait,
on
I'm
the
trying
academic,
to defend you
Huh?
and support you and to consider your needs as well, because I feel like it's cutting into your personal time, and that's not necessarily like, I don't think that you should I can't even think of the word right now, but like commit extra
No,
time
I
to
wouldn't
it.
commit a day. Like I wouldn't say every single Tuesday we're gonna do like high level foolishness. But I would say if we do, it would only be on this day, which would be Tuesday.
So it's like a supplemental thing. So occasionally you'll add a supplemental day.
No.
As
Not a supplemental day, but I would make the content one thing, but it would only be on Tuesday. So on Friday, I feel like Fridays are kickback, relax days, and not like thinking days. Does that make sense?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the thinking day, and that way people know to show up on thinking day if they want to have thinking conversations.
Yeah.
And I know two great topics would be interactions with police, what to say, what not to say. And, am I being detained? That kind of stuff. And just knowing how to interact with law enforcement is always a good one. And I like the idea of discussing qualified immunity and what kind of reforms could be done with that.
Yeah. The last part about what to say, what not to say is too close to legal advice. Nothing I say is legal advice. So I might not do that, but I think it's a great idea and I hope someone else does that, but I won't be doing that.
Yeah, I have a bunch of different bookmark videos, and maybe you could just do commentary on it. Just do a review.
All right.
And then it's not legal advice. You're just critiquing.
Yep.
Ooh, also, I still have copies of like little mock questions for like law topics.
I think to be fair, let me just explain something. I love this channel, and the fact that we even have these discussions where over 50 people watch is amazing to me. I don't want my personal preference in terms of what I want to discuss, which is more legal academic stuff, I know it's my channel, but it doesn't feel that way. It feels like ours. I don't want it to just reign supreme. I think we can have fun and do other things. So I just want you guys to be comfortable, and for us to be able to have. Oh my God, no. They canceled. What time does Chick-fil-A close? Have you ever really wanted something and like you've like imprinted it in your mind that you're gonna have it?
Sorry.
This is a crisis.
Anywho, so I just wanted to feel good too. So I'm gonna think some more about this, but I'm thinking Tuesdays would be where I drop those kind of academic stuff. And so yeah, that's kind of what is gonna happen. Maybe we'll do more videos when it comes to academic stuff instead of live stream, but I also want to talk to y'all. The debates, I want to ramp up, but to ramp them up in terms of meaning requires investment that I don't think is fair. I might be the only channel that is requiring my audience to do work. So maybe not. I don't know. Like, I'm getting kind of like, I'm at a crossroads where it's like, I don't want it to be just watered down foolishness. I do want to push the audience, but I don't want to push y'all away.
I feel like I actually like that. Like we're doing the work, we're all learning, and I think that like I think for the people that really want to be a part of those debates, I think it's good that you're preparing them to like the best of your ability, and they're there at like almost their best, because I think you can always do better. And I think that it's good that you do that.
Yeah, I agree. I like that there's material that we can read and prepare ourselves to have a more fruitful discussion. I really appreciate that. Although I did not have the time to read this material this time, but I will next time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very much pleased with everything. If nothing changes, it's great. This is not anything. To be fair, I criticize Hafiz and them for like the thing. They're fresh and fit about fitness and finance, but no one watches their fitness and finance thing. But I don't claim to be a sort of law channel, so it's fine if no one watches those. I don't think the same critique can be hurled at me, so it's fine.
Amber Heard's going to appeal, so you can just live stream reactions to that. So,
yeah.
I just want to say, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to add that, like, I've always known the importance of this channel because, like, we have important discussions and, like, stuff. But today I realize it more so than ever because today my mind have been, like you guys have influenced me to and challenged me to change certain perspective that I have. And I feel like that is probably happening to a lot of other people who probably thought this way, especially, people as guys start to join the channel and we debate on like things like should women black women have education, stuff like that. Maybe these conversations will help others think like, why do I think that black women shouldn't have education? Why shouldn't they have education? And things like that. Like I just seen the power of like how these conversations can really help shift someone's mind. That's all I wanted to add.
I appreciate that. Obviously, I'm not the one changing minds because it's like everyone contributing, and I actually thought it was beautifully done. Like everyone who spoke had something amazing to add. So, like, I agree with you on that. Unfortunately, the men's
It's a black male improvement channel. Remember, you said that? We still have to improve these men. You can do it, Demas. You got
the
this.
men's not going to be here. All right, we will travel through the dust storm and attempt. I do appreciate you guys. Like, this is great. I will talk to the moderator. Oh, I have a huge meeting Sunday. If we can change the moderator's meeting, well, we can wait till next Sunday, or we can change it to sometime in the week. I just realized I have a huge meeting that I have to literally spend all day Sunday preparing for and stuff. Can't really talk about it. So if moderators, if you're here, there's no meeting on Sunday, I apologize.
I'll put it in the Discord.
All right, thank you. All right, so we will do that. I do have another issue, but I think this can wait. Thank you all so much. I will leave this public. You guys convinced me that they should stay public, so they will.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.